Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Broccoli Fanfics, back with the amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Was Given Power by the God. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. If someone had told me that I was going to meet, be saved by, and subsequently be offered the quirk of the world's #1 hero, then I would ask them what they took before calling for an ambulance as quickly as possible. Such a thing was an impossibility, right? Well, that was until it happened. And said greatest hero was also terminally ill and on the verge of retirement. Did I mention that? Well, he is, and he chose me to be his successor. Me, a quirkless nobody who was just at the right place at the right time. Honestly, it felt like a dream, one that I never wanted to wake up from. Well, I did wake up the next day, but what awaited me just made me question my sanity and lucidity even more. Welcome to the game of life. That message appeared over my head after I opened my eyes. A green text box, reminiscent of a computer game. I lay there frozen and thought up explanations. Okay, someone is either pulling a prank on me with their quirk, I've finally gone insane, or I accidentally took something and it only started to kick in now. I don't know which one's worse. Standing up, I noticed that the screen seems to follow me around. I also noticed that there was a small, white arrow on the bottom right corner. Seeing that I had nothing to lose, I pushed the arrow. And to my surprise, I made contact with a glass-like surface and the text changed. Greetings, my name is Isobai, and I'm what you might call a god. Why am I here, you may ask? Well, I've grown bored and decided to mess with you mortals for a bit. How? By giving one of you an unreasonable power, of course. Even though it was just text on a screen, I could have sworn that I heard a mischievous voice while I read it, along with a burst of almost never-ending laughter. Whatever this was, it was way too elaborate to be a prank. And I'm reasonably sure that even the most powerful of drugs couldn't pull this off. Correct. Now don't interrupt me again. Here's the gist of the situation. I'm giving you a quirk to call your own. It's called Psych. Name it yourself. It's your quirk now, so I'll leave it to you. The only thing I'm going to give you is the instruction manual. That was the only warning I got before a massive 1,000-page book smashed into my face, which somehow weighed nothing. I'm starting to believe him, as crazy as it sounds. Speaking of which, why am I not freaking out right now? It was starting to worry me, to be honest. I was a jumpy guy on the best of days. This has not been my best day, to say the least, yet I'm perfectly calm. Just read the manual. I made it super comprehensive, so don't be like one of those idiots that just jump right into a game without doing the tutorial. Fair enough. I did as I was asked and looked through the first page of the way too light book. This Isobai guy really likes his jokes, I guess, explains the name. The book wasn't a book after all. It was just a holocase with a modern holographic tablet inside. It actually looked even more advanced than any of the newest models I've seen so far. When I turned it on, a globe-like logo was made before it turned into a basic screen which read as such: Congratulations Izuku Midoriya. Your life has now become a game, both for yourself and for those watching at home. Audience applause. This obviously comes with some pretty cool advantages, including but not limited to the following. Gamer's body. The user's body now acts like that of an RPG character. Don't believe me? Would you kindly look at the top left side of your vision? I did so, almost involuntarily, and a red health bar was there waiting for me. Under it sat the numbers 100/100. At least I was healthy, physically anyway. I went back to the tablet, which immediately changed to show the next advantage as it said. Gamer's mind. All negative mental status effects are lowered. The player can still feel emotions. Positive emotions have no reduction applied. Neutral emotions likewise. Negative emotions are only felt at 30% intensity. Okay, that explained it. That was pretty incredible for an entry-level ability. I should get up now. All Might asked me to come by rather early and I shouldn't keep him waiting. After getting dressed, writing a note for when mom wakes up, and eating a quick breakfast, I ran towards Dagaba Beach at a jogging pace. Ping. Movement skill tree unlocked. Skill already leveled up. Starting level 14. Increases running speed by 7% cost. 2 SPS. A green stamina bar appeared just under my health bar. It started at 200 and it was slowly depleting as I ran. It was a pretty basic skill, but hopefully I can level it up some more and gain a better bonus. About halfway to my destination, a thought occurred. I wonder. I picked up the pace and started sprinting, going about twice as fast as I used to. Ping. Sprinting skill unlocked. Sprinting skill already leveled up. Starting level 20. Increases sprinting speed by 10% cost. 4 SPS. Why is my sprint skill at a higher level than my running skill? My mind flashed back to most of my life and I found my answer. Fucking Deku. D-I-I-I-E. Right, stupid question. With these two skills combined, I was able to run a good deal faster than I used to. However, with the stamina drain being what it was, I would run out of SP in under a minute. I decided to keep going like this until my stamina ran out. I then started walking until the meter fully replenished. Rinse and repeat for the hour that it took me to arrive at the beach. Young Midoriya, you're early. Was I? I looked at my wristwatch and confirmed it. I was a half hour early and I didn't even notice it. Was I too focused on leveling my skills? I realized pretty early on that the messages I was receiving from the game system were entirely internal. It wasn't tied to my hearing or sight, but my mind itself. So whenever I wanted to see something, all I had to do was think about it. N+2, Ys +1, running LV20, increases running speed by 10%, stamina cost, 1 SBS. Sprinting LV25, increases sprinting speed by 12.5%, stamina cost 5 SBS. If the bonuses are any indicator, each level increases the bonuses by 0.5% and every 5 levels subtracts 5 SBS from the cost. Now the only question is, what is the level cap? And those stat bonuses? I need to study that manual the moment I get home. Good, it shows that you're serious about this. Now we can begin your training to make you a suitable vessel for my quirk. I thought he said I was already worthy. Maybe he means my physical body. It would make sense, I guess. I looked down at my rather scrawny body. I understand. Where do I start? He smiles at that and points at a heap of garbage a few meters away. For the next 10 months, you will be pulling trash from this beach and moving it to the local recycling site. Most of the stuff here is broken metal junk, so it would be a waste to just dump it all. I want this beach spotless by the time UAS entrance exams begin. If I was my old self, I might have gawked at him and deemed the task impossible. But with Gamer's mind, I just saw a new objective, and I was more than determined enough to try. I nodded at him and got to work. All Might POV. Wow, he didn't even question it. The kid's got determination, I'll give him that. He whispered to himself, shivering slightly at Izuku's determined face. I know I made the right decision. This just proves it further. And so his new pupil's 10 months of hell began. Epic training montage. Start. 1 month in. All Might was a pretty bad teacher. Okay, that was rather blunt but no less true. He was one hell of a motivational speaker and a damn good coach. But a teacher? No. Luckily I have the Gamer to fill in the gaps, I thought to myself as I lugged around 2 microwaves to a fairly large pickup truck that I dug out a few hours earlier. It turns out that it was fully operational. Did All Might know about that? It wouldn't surprise me. He was pretty sneaky when he wanted to be. Practical too. With our new transport, I was able to nearly triple my time. The nearest recycling center or dump site was several kilometers away, so this was a welcome addition. In fact, with the truck lightening my load, I managed to clear a good 15% of the beach in just the first month. All Might was noticeably impressed, and also a little suspicious, but that would come later. Anyway, back to the Gamer. I managed to finally read the manual. The thing was a huge repository of information, and the game itself was massive in scope. Most of the progression seemed to rely on skills. There was an uncountable number of them. If you could think of an action, ability, or talent, it was probably a skill. Speaking of which, I had the following. Running LV Max, increases running speed by 15%, cost, none. Sprinting LV Max, increases sprinting speed by 25%, cost, 1 SBS. Free running LV 30, the player is no longer bothered by rough terrain. Increases movement speed by 10%, cost, 5 SBS. Controlled breathing LV Max, increases stamina regeneration by 100%, current regen, 60 SPM. Acrobatics LV 10, grants 1 AGI per level. The player can treat vertical terrain as regular terrain with a 75% movement penalty. Unarmed Combat LV Max unlocks the fighting skill tree. Player deals 30% bonus damage with unarmed attacks. Boxing LV 20 grants 1 AGI and 1 STR per level. The player deals 20% more damage while using boxing forms. Heavy lifting LV Max unlocks the labor skill tree. Grants 1 STR and 1 N per level. It allows the player to lift objects 60% heavier than normal. Current limit, 80 kilograms. Intense Studying LV Max grants 2 INT per level. Increases learning speed. While active, anything that is read, heard, or experienced will be remembered without fail. Cost, 15 SBS. These were just some of the more important skills that I've learned in the past month. If you were wondering about the level cap, each skill had a rarity. Running, for example, had a rarity of common. This meant that its level cap was only 30. Sprinting, on the other hand, was an uncommon skill. Its level cap was 50. The rarities went universal, common, uncommon, rare, and epic, with level caps of 10, 30, 50, 70, and 90 respectively. I had a sneaking suspicion that there was a 6th rarity, and its cap was 100, but I had no way to prove it. A good portion of the manual was level capped. Unless I had the prerequisite level, skills, or talents, I couldn't access it. What was my level, you may ask? Well, character sheet, Izuku Midoriya. Title, Apprentice Hero. Level, 17. Age, 14. Height 166 centimeters. Weight 65 kilograms. Stats STR 117. AGI 41. End 62. INT 112. Wise 12. Shaw 30. Points 16. I had no idea why my wisdom was so low, or why my charisma was so high, but I couldn't complain about the results I was getting from training. In just a short month I had already gotten 10 times stronger. It was insane. Although my most important skill would have to be this one. The only epic level skill in my collection. Analyze LV32, grants 1 int per level. It allows the player to analyze any object and receive information on it based on skill level. Current information, object name, object quality, object stats. Analyze does not work on objects 20 levels higher than the player. Cost, none. It was insanely useful for a variety of reasons. At first, the information that it gave me was vague at best, and it only applied to inanimate objects. After leveling it up, however, I've been able to analyze living things too, including myself. Any damage that I received from overworking myself, any opening in my guard, any misstep. I'm aware of all of them so long as I'm paying attention. This skill single-handedly accelerated my training to new heights, so much so that All Might even pull me aside one day during training. Young Midoriya, your rate of growth has been nothing short of phenomenal. Not only have you taken to your training like a fish to water, but you've improved exponentially in both your technique and your analytical abilities. Are you sure you didn't have a quirk? His praise was welcome, but he was right. This would look suspicious to anyone, so I decided to come clean. At least partially. All Might, I think you might be onto something. You're right, this growth rate is unnatural, and I have no idea how it's happening. Maybe I should see a doctor. Not an outright lie. I just mince the words a bit. Maybe All Might will know someone that can look into this gamer ability further. All Might deflated into his true form and gave me a serious look. Good idea. It seems to be a beneficial change if anything, but it would be best to make sure of that rather than continue blindly. Meet me here again on set and I'll introduce you to a friend of mine. If anyone can make sense of this, it's her. Hopefully, you're just a late bloomer. I agreed to it, of course. The only thing I really knew about the gamer is how to use some of its features, and the name of the person or god that gave it to me. And if mythology has taught me anything, it's to not trust a god when they give you something for free. At least he was pretty upfront about the reason. Who knew my life would spiral this far out of control? I'm officially All Might's apprentice, and apparently the new source of entertainment to some random god and an audience if the manual was to be believed. Year days. I can't believe I'm actually here. Was the thought repeating itself in my head as I walked with All Might towards his friend's workplace? Did I mention that said friend was Recovery Girl, and that she worked at the place that I've always dreamed of attending? Well, she is, and she does, and it's only because of Gamer's mind that I'm not a stuttering mess of pants-pissing fear. Turns out that when your negative emotions are suppressed, the positive ones come out much easier. So instead of crumpling up into a ball of anxiety, I was smiling like a loon the whole time. You're taking this a lot better than I thought you would. I guess all that training did you some good in more ways than just the physical. At least All Might wasn't suspicious about my sudden personality shift. It made sense since we've only really known each other for a month. One less problem to deal with. All Might Sensei, before we meet Recovery Girl, I should ask, does she know about One for All? I asked. All Might froze at that and face-palmed. Stupid. Sorry about that, I totally forgot. Anyway, yes, she does know. She's one of a handful of people that do. The only other person in this school that knows is the principal, so don't go spreading it around, he said in a sheepish and slightly worried tone. He really is just a big goofball when you get to know him. At least it's endearing. Apparently, Gamer's mind treated hero worship as a negative emotion, so I've had a bit of time to get used to All Might without the emotional baggage attached. I still highly respect the man, and I still like him as a person, of course. That hasn't changed, but I think it's become far more genuine now that the rose-tinted glasses have fallen aside. We arrived at the nurse's office shortly after entering the school. It was located right at the front of the main building for the sake of simplicity. I guess with all the injuries that the hero course students get, it makes sense to have the infirmary in an easily accessed location. She hadn't been what I was expecting. Toshinori-chan, what brings you here? Her head turned to me before a look of understanding appeared on her face. Ah, so he's the one, isn't he? A little scrawny. I suppose you want me to take a look at the boy. She deduced it so easily. Even All Might was a bit taken aback by this. Cough, yes, please. You see, young Midoriya here has had a recent change happen to him. For the last month or so I've been training him in preparation to receive One for All, and in that time he has shown a startling level of improvement. In fact, here is what he looked like before we started training. It should help get my point across. He showed her his phone, which had a picture of me from about a month ago. Thought I was a stick figure back then. The difference was clear, even with me wearing baggy clothing. Okay, Sonny, if you're taking steroids, say it now. I promise I won't be mad, Recovery Girl said with a straight face. My eyes widened before I denied it. What? No, that's not it. I think I'm just a late bloomer. I haven't taken any drugs or anything like that. And it's not just my muscle growth either. I've been learning things faster, and even my senses have improved too fast to be normal. That's why I came here. I was met with a few chuckles from the elderly woman who just looked amused. I know, kid, don't worry. Steroid users always have signs, especially the ones that create these kinds of results. You haven't shown any of these signs, and I know that Toshinori is a better judge of character than that. She reassured me with a smile. What's happened to you is strange, though. I can run some blood tests to see if I can find anything until the results are in. You'll just have to pray that it's nothing overly serious. I agreed to it, even if I already knew what the ability did. Making sure that it showed up in my DNA was important after all. Quirks are physical abilities, and that Asobi guy said that he was giving me a quirk, not some magic power, so it has to be biological in some way. Time skip 1 month. It's been a whole month and we've still had no word from Recovery Girl. The results should be ready very soon. Recovery Girl apparently saw several unique things that she wished to examine closer, so the analysis had to take a bit longer. While I was waiting for my results, All Might and I continued our training, although we had to make a few changes to compensate for my ludicrous growth rate. Among those changes was what I like to call resistance training. And no, not the usual kind. I had to do this kind of training myself or risk coming off as insane. I could apparently gain resistance to various types of damage. I found this out after taking a rather nasty fall from a tall pile of garbage and hitting a microwave before All Might could catch me. I gained the Resist Blunt Force skill and unlocked the Resistance skill tree, since skills are leveled through use, and my regeneration rate reached inhuman levels as a side effect of having the gamer. I knew what I had to do. I swear I'm not a masochist. I just wanted to survive anything that may come my way, and with how common fire-type quirks are, you can see where I went with that. Speaking of that regeneration rate, it was absolutely broken. I had a total of 100 horsepower when I started. With all of the boosts to my end stat, my current health pool was sitting at a comfortable 10 horsepower per point in endurance. That wasn't the insane part though. While it was true that an average human with no enhancement type quirks had an average end score of 10, which made me a good 12 times more durable than most people, the real kicker was the natural regeneration rate. It was an unchanging 1% HP recovery rate per minute, meaning that so long as I don't get killed instantly by something, I could be fully healed from any injury in under 2 hours. Even most healing type quirks would pale in comparison, especially since my regeneration didn't seem to exhaust me in any way. For resistance training, I started out with a small lighter, a cheap one that I bought off a general store near my apartment. It hurt like crazy at first, but to my relief, I developed 2 skills instead of 1. Resist fire and dull pain. One cut the damage that I took from heat sources by a percentage, while the other dulled my sense of pain by another percentage. I still felt the sensation though. It was more like I was detached from the feeling, almost like being hurt in a video game. You noticed that your avatar was in pain, but you wouldn't actually be hurt. I had to take the training slowly at first, but since the skills also gave me boosts to my endurance, it meant that my regeneration rate would also go up with the larger health pool. As for my general training progress, it wasn't as explosive as it was in the first month, but it was still nothing to sneeze at. My stats all exploded after I started pushing myself to the limit. Pretty much every skill gave me small boosts to my stats, so they went up naturally. These were the results of another grueling month of non-stop shonen anime level training. Izuku Midoriya, level 25. Title, Apprentice Hero. HP, 1210. SP, 2420. STR, 150. AGI, 220. And 121. INT, 140. Wise, 40. Cha, 70. Points, 24. I managed to change up the stat sheet a little to make it easier to read, along with taking out any unnecessary information. I still had no idea why my INT was capped at 140. Maybe it was my natural limit. Maybe studying only brought you so far. I'll pick up some logic puzzles or something later to see if I can improve the cap. My stats have all pretty much reached the point where I could already handle one for all's power without exploding. But I still wanted to finish cleaning the beach before receiving it. It just felt right. Speaking of which, I was nearly done. Only about 25% of the beach had any trash left. And it was mostly just the small stuff that could be picked up quickly compared to the huge refrigerators and whole vehicles that were there when I first started. I was actually on my way over to Dagaba before I ran into a peculiar sight. An auburn-haired girl wearing a gray hero hoodie and carrying a duffel bag was surrounded by a group of middle-aged, overweight, and frankly ugly men. How cliché can you get? Well, I can see where this is going. Might as well test out my new stats. I didn't bother sneaking up on them. With my current AGI and STR scores combined, I was pretty much a walking, talking cannonball. Not that I used that much strength to knock them out. I wasn't trying to kill them. Several relatively pathetic punches to various spots later, and I turned around to address the girl. Are you okay? I asked the shocked girl who barely had time to blink before the encounter was over. She did a pretty good impression of me from a few months ago before answering, still stuttering slightly. Why yeah, thanks for the assist. I don't think I could have handled all of them without using my quirk. Though, you don't have to worry about that though. I doubt they saw you and my lips are sealed. She promised to not report me. Crap, I didn't even think about that. I have a quirk now, I can't just go in like that without thinking. She's right though, none of them saw me. And I don't think she'd lie to me about keeping it secret. I gave a quick thanks to my gamer's mind for keeping my face straight as I had my mini internal freakout. Thanks for that. I couldn't just let them gang up on you like that, so I acted. You should really be more careful, by the way. This isn't the safest neighborhood. She looked a bit sheepish at that. I'm actually new to these parts. I moved here to be closer to my possible new school. My parents kind of jumped the gun and hooked me up with an apartment before I even took the entrance exam. Hopefully, I won't make a fool of myself and fail after all that. Ouch, someone has a bit of pressure put on them. Not that I can blame her. I was in the same position, if not even worse, considering I only had my quirk for 2 months, not to mention the whole All Might successor thing. I'm sure you'll do fine. Worrying about it would just make it even harder. I'm also taking a pretty difficult entrance exam in a few months. But if I want to go to a place like UA, I just have to suck it up and try my best. She looked surprised when I mentioned UA and her face brightened up even more. You're going to UA. So am I. Hi, small world. With skills like yours, I'm sure you'll make it. Oh, I'm sorry I never introduced myself or got your name. I'm Uraka Ochako. It's a pleasure to meet you. She introduced herself with a bow. I smiled and did the same. Midoriya Izuku, the feeling's mutual. Well, I should get going. I was heading out to train for a bit before I saw you in trouble. It would be bad if I started missing days after all. She looked like she was about to ask something but decided not to. I hate to be pushy, but with confidence issues like that it would be best to just ask. I thought before popping the question. You looked like you wanted to ask me something. She seemed surprised that I read her so easily and blushed. Don't be afraid to do so, I don't bite. I still have a bit of time before I need to be there. She was still blushing but gathered up enough courage to ask me her question. Would you mind if I joined you? For training, that is. Since we're both going to UA, I'll understand if you want to keep things secret from other competitors. But since you're so strong, I just wondered if you could help me out. It was as stupid I'd just forge. I tap her on the shoulder to get her to stop. I could barely keep track of what she was saying, but I got the gist of it. There's no need for you to be so nervous around me, I won't mind having someone join me for training. Since you're new around here, I'm sure you're still getting used to the area, so I'll offer to show you around if you want. Did her eyes just sparkle? Well, she definitely looked happy at least. Thank you so much, Midoriya-kun. You're so nice. Well, that was fast. She's obviously the friendly type if a bit shy. We walked together towards Dagaba Beach and chatted along the way. I explained that I had a trainer helping me get stronger. I wasn't too worried about her seeing All Might though. He rarely entered his muscle form while we trained anymore. He needed to conserve his energy for hero work, and I've gotten strong enough to keep myself safe for the most part. And, with my luck being what it was, I was immediately proven wrong. Young Midoriya, I have good knee. A fully muscled up All Might yelled out before pausing. Ochako was making a pretty damn good impression of a deer in front of headlights as she froze up at the sight of the #1 hero. I was just face-palming. Well, there goes that secret, I muttered to myself before taking All Might and dragging him towards a particularly large garbage pile while apologizing to Ochako, saying that I needed to talk to him alone. Okay, we can still salvage this. She doesn't know about your true form, so just stay like that for a bit longer. We can say that I was being trained by you because our quirks are kind of similar, and you took an interest in it after I mentioned that I wanted to attend UA. He gave me a thumbs up, approving of the plan. Good idea, young Midoriya, but I still need to talk to you later. Recovery girl finally made a breakthrough with your blood, and she wants to talk to you at your earliest convenience. Try to meet me here next Wednesday. That will be a day off of training so that we can do some more tests that she recommended. After I agreed to it, we walked back to the still stunned Ochako. Sorry about that. All Might Sensei had some private information to tell me that I wasn't very comfortable sharing. He's my trainer, if you were wondering. Sorry for not telling you ahead of time, I kinda forgot. He won't be here today, so it's just us for now. That seemed to break her out of her funk as she nodded quickly and then took out a piece of paper from the bag she was carrying. I'm sorry for springing this on you, All Might-san, but can I have your autograph? Right, #1 hero. I should have expected that. Luckily, All Might is a pretty good sport when it comes to this, and he gave her the autograph without much issue. Have fun, you two. I have some important business to get to, so I'll be off. And with that, he leaped up into the air and disappeared into the horizon. Now that that's over, I still have one problem left to solve. I can't believe you're being trained by All Might himself. You really are amazing. This was going to take a while to explain. Hopefully, she'll be too tired by the end of the day to question exactly how I became All Might's student or the actual extent of our relationship. Year days. This is going to be a long week, I can already tell. Having Uraraka-san as a training buddy was an interesting experience, to say the least. Her quirk in particular was pretty unique. She could negate the effects of the force of gravity of any object she touched, an ability that I was very interested in learning more about, although I think I made it a bit too obvious. The poor girl was left blushing up a storm as I praised her quirk for being amazing and asked her to show me her hands so that I could analyze them, since skill worked better the more specific the thing you were analyzing was. Analyzing a person got me some vague information as well as stats. Analyzing a person's features got me much more. Normally I would have shrugged off Uraraka's reactions as just being shy, but the way she acted around others while I showed her around town gave me the opposite impression. She was very extroverted and talked openly, even with complete strangers. Was she afraid of me? Did she think she owed me anything? I didn't get my answer until I went home that day. Normally I didn't pay any attention to my looks, I just wasn't that type of guy. But if something about me made others afraid, I had to see it for myself. Imagine my surprise when I noticed that I turned into a fucking bishonen since the last time I saw a mirror. So that's what a high-cha stat does. I don't know whether to be happy with this or not. Now that I think about it, I talked to Uraraka-san much easier than I normally would have. My anxiety was suppressed by Gamer's mind, but that shouldn't make me any better at talking to people. Maybe it was another aspect of cha. Charisma isn't just someone's physical appearance after all. I just wonder how Mom hasn't noticed this yet. Or maybe she hasn't just assumed the same thing that All Might did and chalked it up to me being a late bloomer. She wasn't the only one that reacted strangely to my recent change though. Ever since my training started to show its results, Kaken has been avoiding me like the plague. Speaking of my training, it was essentially over. The beach was almost fully clean and I only needed another day or two before my job was done. My new friendship with Uraraka was something that put a smile on my face though. I never really had many friends in junior high. Being the quirkless kid almost guaranteed that. So this was a nice change of pace from Kaken's idea of friendship. As for my medical test results, they were interesting, to say the least. I was perfectly healthy as far as the normal stuff went. Almost too healthy was how Recovery Girl put it. Apparently, my cells were quite resilient to damage. So long as at least one of them were left alive, they would just multiply and grow back to their original numbers from when they were drawn. Needless to say, they were brimming with questions when I told them about my regeneration. One thing was obvious though. Whatever my quirk was, it was definitely powerful. I think I'd rather keep it like that. Something tells me that telling them that a random god handed me a quirk that made my life into a game wasn't going to end well. My life was getting complicated fast. That was for sure. Hopefully, the one for all training that I'll do later will take my mind off of it. The UA exams are only 6 months away, so I really should get to studying for those. With my new INT stats, I was pretty much at the top of my class, so I had no problems with my grades. But who knows, the written exam might have a few surprises. Oh, who am I kidding? I just need a distraction right now. I took out my phone and messaged Uraraka to see if she wanted to hang out. We usually just met up for training and the occasional pass around the city to get her used to it. But we never actually spent a day together as friends. Hello, Midoriya-kun. Did you need anything? She answered shortly after I called. I guess she must be pretty bored too, living all alone. I was just wondering if you had any plans today. I was pretty bored, so I wanted to ask if you wanted to hang out. I asked, getting an immediate, nearly ear-piercing reply. Yes, I mean, sure. Is Dagaba Beach 20 minutes from now a good time? She asked. I thought about it for a bit and decided that it would be fine. Sure, I'll be there. I just have to get dressed and tell Mom that I'll be out for the day. See ya. After that call, I got dressed and told Mom that I was going to hang out with Uraraka for a bit. She seemed pretty excited by that. I had told her about Uraraka back when she first joined me for training. Have fun, Izuku. Just don't do anything I wouldn't do. I caught the meaning behind her words but chose to ignore them. Uraraka and I weren't like that. And to my relief, Gamer's mind also lowered my sense of embarrassment, something I was very grateful for. As I made my way toward the beach, I took a moment to reflect on the past few months of hard work that made the beach visible in the first place. Before I started cleaning the place up, it was basically just a landfill, with piles of trash so high that they blocked out the horizon. Now, it actually looked rather clean, with only a few stray bottles and the occasional piece of cardboard laying around. It filled me with a great deal of pride knowing that I was the one that cleaned the place up, single-handedly. It brought a smile to my face as I kept walking almost on autopilot, only noticing that I reached my destination when an energetic voice broke me out of my trance. Midoriya-kun, I am here, called out a smiling Uraraka, doing what I could only guess was an All Might impression. I smiled back at her and quickened my pace again. That was a poor decision considering that she had her eyes closed and ran right into me. I was sturdy enough to stand my ground, but she was another story. Hey, she yelped out before she stopped falling. I managed to catch her before she hit the ground. The consequence of this being that I now had my arm around her waist and my face was inches away from hers. Are you okay? You really shouldn't run with your eyes closed like that. I teased lightly as her blush deepened to new levels before I let her go. She stayed there frozen for a bit before realizing that she's still only inches away from me. Sorry Midoriya-kun. I was just really excited to see you. That's just unfair. I can't be mad at such an adorable reason. I wasn't really mad, to begin with, but that's beside the point. Don't worry about it. Do you have any suggestions on what to do? Honestly, I decided to do this on a whim, so I had no real idea of what to kill time with. I admitted sheepishly. Ochako looked caught off guard, probably having even less of a plan than myself, but ended up suggesting a pretty good idea. How about we take a walk in the nearby park? I still don't know the city very well, and I don't have much money to spare. Sorry if it's too boring. There's that shyness again. For a different reason this time though. Don't worry about it, Uraraka-san. I could use a relaxing walk with good company, no need for anything fancy. With that said, we headed out for our walk, talking to each other along the way, specifically about what we were going to do once we passed the entrance exam. I don't know really. If I do pass, I just hope that we'll be in the same class. It would be great to have a familiar face to talk to, she said excitedly. I shake my head a bit. There's no if about it. I'm sure you'll pass the exam just fine. You've come a long way since we started training. Ever since she joined me as a training partner, I had been teaching her how to box. The fighting style didn't really mesh well with her quirk, but it did teach her how to fight competently. Her footwork in particular has seriously improved. She wasn't really able to beat me in a fight though. Our stat differences were simply too high. Thankfully, she also kept any questions about All Might to a minimum, limited to some general information questions that didn't have anything to do with why I was being trained by him. If you say so, Midoriya-kun. I still can't help but worry though. Oh well, she'll see what I mean after we take the exams. We continued to walk for a bit, enjoying each other's company before we ran into a familiar face, or at least, familiar to me. Deku, the hell are you doing here? Well, there's a voice I haven't heard in a while. Musutafu's resident explosives expert and my former best friend. Kaken, how's it been? I haven't seen you in months. I was honestly getting worried. Kaken wasn't usually this reclusive, he was usually the opposite in fact. Maybe I didn't want to see you, ever thought about that? I still don't know you shit understand. And what's with round face over there? You finally got a girlfriend or something? I don't know what I expected, to be honest. This was just classic Kaken. I mean, not how Uraraka tried to stammer out, but she wasn't quite used to Kaken's personality, so she was still too stunned to properly deny anything. I decided to step in. I knew better than most how much patience one needed when dealing with Kaken. Whatever you say, Kaken. As for your earlier question, Uraraka-san and I were just hanging out for a bit. I tried to explain. Not that it would matter with Kaken's personality. The explosive boy tested my reply. Whatever, I noticed that you've been training lately. Don't think that it will make any difference. A quirkless nobody like you still has no chance at getting into UA, let alone beating me, he boasted, much to the relative newcomer's confusion. Quirkless? What? Uraraka said, taken aback by Kaken's seemingly random insult and blatant lie, though she was too shocked by the explosive quirk user's personality to get a word in on the conversation. I could still salvage this. I'm not quirkless anymore, Kaken. You've been avoiding me for a while, so I can see why you would think I was. Turns out I was a late bloomer. He didn't take that very well, which was expected. This was Kaken I was talking to. Bullshit. Do you really think I would believe that crap? Great, this isn't going to end well. I should probably give him some time to calm down. Believe whatever you want to, Kaken. I'll be able to show you it when entrance exams come around. I suggest that you train up for that, otherwise I might just surpass you. Until then, I say before walking off with Uraraka following along, not wanting to stay close to the fuming Kaken any longer. What was with that guy? He seemed really mad at you, or just mad in general. And why did he call me round face? She was especially offended by that last comment. He refers to people with insulting nicknames for the most part. As for the anger, it's just who he is. Sorry about that. I apologized for my childhood friend's behavior. It's okay, Midoriya-kun. By the way, why didn't you deny it when he called me your girlfriend? She asked shyly. I froze at that. Oh crap, I forgot about that. Hopefully, she wouldn't be too mad. Sorry about that, Uraraka-san. I barely noticed when he said it. I apologize if it made you feel uncomfortable. I apologized quickly, hoping to get off lightly. Oh, not at all. It's fine, really. I was just surprised is all. It's not like I'm anywhere in your league or anything, she said shyly, looking down at the floor. Now that wasn't right at all. I knew she had confidence issues sometimes, but this was a bit much. Don't talk like that, Ochako-san. You're more than good enough. If anything, I'm the one that doesn't deserve to be with someone as nice as you. I reassured her before freezing. It was right then that my INTCH stat kicked in. Did we just confess to each other? Oh god, we did. I'm not prepared for this. Did she realize this too? I looked towards her and she was practically steaming from her ears. Your days. I just wanted to have a normal day. Hanging out with a friend for a bit. Instead, I ended up meeting an old friend, challenging him to outdo each other in the upcoming exams, and somehow getting a girlfriend. Why does my life need to be so complicated? 1 week after the Bakugou incident, All Might and I arrived at Dagaba Beach a few hours early that day. The beach itself was completely unrecognizable. It now had pristine, nearly white sand rivaling the greatest beaches in the world. Not a speck of trash or dirt could be seen, and the two of us just stood there, admiring the finished product. Young Midoriya, I can't even begin to tell you how proud I am. Originally, I had expected this to take the full 10 months to complete, and even then I wasn't too sure that you could pull it off. But this, you've completely surpassed my expectations. It is time. He plucked a hair from his head and held it out to me. Eat this. Hey, this wasn't how I expected this to go. At all. Okay, listen, you need to take in my DNA somehow, and this just seemed like the least disgusting way to go about it. It's even more awkward for me if that helps. I honestly should have expected this. Every power came with a catch. Let's just get this over with. I swallowed the hair and chugged some water to make sure that it didn't come back up. Afterward, I didn't really feel any different. I guess I needed to digest it first. While the power gets settled, why don't we spar for a bit? It should get the blood pumping and boost your metabolism a bit. All Might suggests with his ever-present grin. This was going to be painful. All Might didn't quite know the meaning of holding back. After a few months of training, I was actually rather strong, though that meant nothing against such an overwhelming opponent. We started off lightly at first, moving at normal speeds while practicing our boxing for a bit. All Might was a bit rusty with it since most people couldn't stand his basic punches, while I was still a relative novice at the discipline. Boxing LV 35. Player deals 35% increased damage while using boxing forms. Not bad, young Midoriya. You've come a long way since I taught you the basics. That quirk of yours really is something. Let's take it up a notch. And Inachi rose. Well, a couple. Crap baskets. Yeah, I was smashed through the air right into the wall that separates the beach from the rest of the city. Minus 810. Yeah, no matter how high my dull pain level was, losing over 2/3 of my health hurt. Ping. Dull pain has leveled up 4x. Blunt force resistance has leveled up 8x. Though those notifications did bring a smile to my face. Is this a bad time? Ochako piped up from the stairs leading down to the beach. She was there to see me hit the wall but nothing else. Deku-kun, are you okay? Why are you smiling? I just gave her a thumbs up before my body fell out of the small crater that was made with it. I landed on my face. Thankfully, the pristine sand I made broke my fall. I'm good. It looked a lot worse than it was, I say before standing up on a broken leg. Okay, it might be as bad as it looks. Don't worry though, the leg should fix itself in an hour or so. All Might looked sheepish for taking it too far. He got a bit too worked up after seeing how far I had come, I guess. Only you could shrug off a punch from All Might and a broken leg as if it were nothing. Sometimes I wonder if you enjoy it, Ochako said in a questioning tone. I gaped a little at that. I don't give that impression, do I? Oh, of course not. I'm just happy that I can even stand on the same ground as him. I would have never dreamed of taking a punch from All Might a year ago. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't smile at that kind of growth? That seemed to satisfy them for now. After I recovered, we trained with each other for a bit. All Might with myself before I sparred with Ochako for a bit. We've come a long way since making it official a week ago. We call each other by our first names, of course, and I've even trusted her with a few of my secrets. Not one for all, that wasn't really mine to tell, but I did tell her a bit about the gamer. I didn't tell her about Asobi, but as far as the mechanics go, she does know about skills and levels, including just how quickly I could improve them. She took that far better than I thought she would. You just keep proving me right. No matter what you say, you're amazing, Deku-kun. Imagine my surprise when she called me by that nickname. I asked her why and she said that she liked the name, that it sounded like the word Deku, to never give up. I was shocked at first but accepted it in the end. I was never going to get away from that name, especially since Kaken was attending UA. Might as well turn it into something positive. Ping. New skill 1 for all acquired. This skill is the culmination of 2 separate skills. Power stockpile acquired. Quirk inheritance acquired. These skills unlock the quirk skill tree. 1 for all of E1 allows the player to pass on this skill, along with the skill power stockpile, to another person. Current max output without damage 1%. Limit can be temporarily released at the cost of the player's health. Cost 10 horsepower per percent used above the limit, per limb. I'll take 990 damage from just a single use of this at max power. Yikes, gotta level this one quickly then. Power stockpile LV max. This skill allows the player to stockpile power throughout their lifetime. The human body can only handle so much power, however, so there is a limit. The previous user has found this limit. Oh, K. So much for being stronger than All Might. Although with the gamer I probably have other avenues for that. Now for that final skill. Quirk Inheritance LVN. This skill allows the player to inherit the quirks of others via the consumption of a willing target's DNA. However, this is limited to the number of times one for all has been passed on. Current limit, 8 quirks. I needed to talk to All Might about this later, but for now, I should tell him that it was time to test the waters a bit. All Might Sensei, I have an idea but it might not end well. I just want to let you know beforehand that it might injure me. I gave him a wink and pointed at my arm to let him know what I meant. Sure, that's the reason I'm here. Feel free to experiment a bit. He gave me the green light. Nodding, I approached the ocean and mentally prepared myself. I cocked back my fist and internally screamed, Detroit Smash, Son Goku, eat your heart out. A large trench was carved into the ocean which stretched for miles. More than a few fish were freaked out by the sudden disturbance. And my arms broken. Great. Ping. Blunt force resistance has leveled up 2x. Dull pain has leveled up 2x. One for all has leveled up. Even with the intense pain I couldn't help but grin with everything I had. Especially with the last notification. Special move skill tree unlocked. Detroit Smash unlocked. Detroit Smash uses 100% of the energy and power stockpile. Deals 100% bonus damage when yelled out in a straight line, decreasing by 10% per 10 meters cross. Cost, HP associated with using one for all, plus 100 stamina per use. You're really not helping your case with that smile, Deku-kun. I'm pretty sure that arm is broken. A worried Ochako teased me. I didn't really care though, my inner nerd just realized something. I just did the fucking Detroit Smash. This was a good day. Time skip day of the exam. Are you ready, Ochako-chan? This is it, I asked as we walked towards the entrance of UA. Normally I'd be gawking right now, but I was lucky enough to already visit here once before. I hope I am, but there's no point second guessing myself now, I guess, she answered, shaking a bit in anticipation but otherwise confident in herself. Too true. Now let's go. Before the eye was cut off by a familiar voice. Out of my way, Deku. Before I blow you to bits, Bakugou said, much calmer than he usually was. He probably just didn't want to get singled out too early. Good luck to you too, Kaken. A quip which he ignored in favor of walking towards the entrance. So much for friendly competition. Anyway, he's right, we should get going before the written test starts. We did just that, and let me tell you, an INT stat of 140 along with skills that improve studying makes most tests a piece of cake. Oh, hey Kaken, guess they ordered these seats by middle school. He just grunts in response as Present Mike shows up to explain the practical portion. Robots, huh? Nothing too bad. I could probably take them on without needing to use one for all. In other news, Kaken seemed pretty pissed that we weren't sharing the same arena. It was all going relatively smoothly until one kid raised his hand and asked about the 0-point robot that was yet to be explained. Eesh, someone's tense. I guess I can't blame him. This is the UA exams after all. Although something about that guy seems familiar. His face and hair in particular. We headed out to our respective arenas where I came across yet another familiar face. Ochako-chan, nice to see that we're in the same area. I call out to her and she returns the favor. Deku-kun. I don't know whether to be happy or nervous that we're in the same group. I'll have a hard enough time getting points without a powerhouse like you around. She pouted a bit. I just laughed it off and encouraged her to do her best. Excuse me, but shouldn't you be taking things more seriously? This is UA, not some social environment. The guy from earlier scolded us, which was fair, I guess. We are causing a bit of a scene, weren't we? Wait a minute, those legs. I knew it. Oh, sorry about that. I gotta say though, I'm surprised to see a relative of Ingenium here. Then again, I really shouldn't be. I say sheepishly while Ada's eyes widen. How did he started before being cut off by a loud begin. Hey, no countdown. Makes sense, I guess, if they were going for realism. I bolted from my spot, heading towards the now open city, with my speed being what it was. And with the head start that I had, I reached the first enemy villain before anyone else. It was a basic, green-colored robot with what appeared to be missile silos on its back. It moved on treads and had a large white 3 painted on it. I should probably aim for the center. The silos almost act as a perfect funnel for a hard kick. Turns out that was the correct decision. The missiles shot out but were way too slow. I dodged them easily enough and landed a full-powered kick at the center of the machine. Surprisingly enough, the metal was fairly weak and it crumbled under my foot. Power attack skill unlocked. Not bad for a common skill. I guess they can't exactly waste money making these things particularly smart. This city alone must cost millions. I thought as I moved on to the next villain. I noticed that the others were finally catching up with me. The Ada especially. Oh well, just gotta focus on the villains for now. The 1-point villains had very simple weak points. Take off the head and the rest goes with it. Said head had a neck made of open joints and fragile bolts. Too easy. The 2-pointers were equally simple, but I needed something with a bit more oomph to pierce their armor. I scavenged a piece of a 1-pointer and used it as a makeshift shield. Axe to cut off the 2-pointers' heads and tails. Scavenge skill unlocked. Unlocks the rogue skill tree. Shield proficiency skill unlocked. Unlocks the weapons skill tree. Blunt weapon proficiency skill unlocked. Oh my, I'll have to look over those later. I have to focus for now. I picked up the tail of a nearby 2-pointer to use as another makeshift weapon. Even if I couldn't pay attention to the messages now, I could at least roll with them. Whip proficiency skill unlocked. I smirk at that, not reading the full description just yet. At this point, I lost count of the points I got and just kept going at full speed, not really tiring since my stamina was fairly high. Eventually, the area dried up as the villains became suspiciously few in number. That can't be good. I have a bad feeling. Suddenly the ground shook as a 10-story tall monstrosity made its appearance. Oh, so that's the 0-pointer. Thwomp indeed. I was about to turn the other way and run before I heard a yelp of pain. My head snapped back and I saw Ochako there, under a pile of rubble, hurt, most likely with a broken ankle. I didn't even think about what to do next. I rushed at the 0-pointer at full speed and made a 100% jump with one for all. Both of my legs were broken, but it didn't matter. The pain was going to fuel what I was going to do next. Detroit smash. And it was over just like that. The robot's head caved in and the whole body rocked back from the force of my punch. I had a full second to admire my work before gravity decided to do its job. Luckily, my girlfriend could tell gravity to fuck off, so I survived the landing. I gave a thumbs up to Ochako as she released me from her quirk. Thanks for the save. I'm so buying you mochi after this. She pants for a bit before answering, a sick look on her face. And no problem, Deku BL rag. Were those rainbows? Or was I just delusional from the pain? Either way, I couldn't help but smile at her at that moment. Oh my, you were hurt this badly by your own quirk. Oh well, it was a rather impressive feat that you accomplished, so it isn't that surprising that you overdid it. Here, recovery girl kissed my forehead, healing me almost instantly, while consequently dropping my stamina down to 1 point. That wasn't too bad though. So long as it wasn't less than 0, I could remain standing. And since my running skills were maxed out, I could do so indefinitely. I stood up right away and thanked her for the healing. Ochako-chan is also injured, I blurted out. She nodded and did the same for her, fixing her sprained ankle instantly. Now you two should get going. The results should be ready within a few weeks. We agreed and headed off towards the exit, leaving behind a slightly stunned crowd that was still looking at the destroyed 0-pointer. I wanted to properly thank and speak with Recovery Girl for a bit, but that might have been too suspicious. Sigh, I hope 35 points are enough to pass. I tried to get more, but I couldn't stop myself from helping out some of the other contestants who bit off more than they could chew. Ochako spoke up about her worries as we walked towards the train station to head home. I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm not even sure how many points I got, to be honest. I just tried my best and never looked back. Besides, you should never be sorry for helping others. You did the right thing, Ochako-chan. She smiled, a bit relieved at my reassurance. Speaking of helping others, you really saved me back there, Deku-kun. That special move of yours is really something else. The way I spun it was that my quirk allowed me to surpass my limits, but only for a moment. And even then it caused me a lot of damage. It seemed like a decent explanation at the time. I'm sure I'll be able to tell her the truth soon. She gained a mischievous smirk. I think that you deserve a reward for saving me. In fact, I'll do it right now. She took me by surprise and landed a kiss right on my lips. Best reward ever. I'm buying her seconds. After a few more seconds to ourselves, we realized that we were in public. Whatever. Embarrassment could take a back seat for now. Today was a very good day, it would seem. This is some good mochi. As promised, the day after our exams, I took Ochako out to eat some of her favorite sweet, my charge, of course. It really is. The green tea mochi, in particular, is fantastic. It was surprisingly cheap too. At least it was, now that I had unlocked what had to be the gamer's greatest feature. Okay, I was exaggerating, but it was still pretty neat. It allowed me to convert any item that I found into whatever currency I wanted based on its game-given value. It only worked on items that I owned though. And according to the game guide, it didn't work in combat, so most of my ideas for it went out the drain. It was still ridiculously useful though. For added convenience, I had a basic inventory system of sorts. Whenever an object was converted into money, it was stored in a pocket dimension that I had access to. This also helped me keep track of fractions, since some things weren't even worth 1 yen. Basically, it encouraged me to clean up the streets in a very literal way. I was more than happy to do it too. While the monetary rewards were about on par with a basic part-time job, I was mostly doing it for the sake of following All Might's lessons anyway. The money was just a nice bonus. Apparently, It was tax-free too, so I did feel a little guilty, but to be fair, I was also doing a public service, so it evens out, I think. I hope we get placed in the same class, Deku-kun. It would make the first few days much easier. True enough, although I don't think either of us will have much trouble making friends. Ochako is too sociable and kind to have any real problems, and I was literally 9 times more charismatic than the average person. I'm not sure how the game quantifies that, but it hasn't been wrong so far. We should be fine. I doubt we would have much trouble integrating with everyone else. Plus, they're in the same boat as us. The only real complication I can see happening is if we were in the same class as Kaken. She froze up a bit at that. Yeah, I couldn't blame her. Us being in the same class would be awkward, to say the least. I don't know if I'm comfortable letting you pay for all of this, Deku-kun. Are you sure it's okay? This was the 3rd time she asked that. I just sighed with slight exasperation. Ochako-chan, for the last time, it's fine. Let me treat my girlfriend once in a while. Think of it as a reward for doing your best yesterday. She seemed to accept that. For now. Okay, but I'm still going to pay you back later. She wasn't budging on that one. Still, I gotta say, having some matcha with you is one of the better rewards I could think of. Yue really doesn't pull any punches. Those robots nearly got me a few times back there, she exclaimed while holding her stomach a bit. I guess the heavy metal enemies made her go over her limit. Hey, you guys took the entrance exam too? A voice came from the table behind me. I looked back and locked eyes with a red-haired boy and a girl with yellow eyes, black sclere, pink hair, and skin. It was pretty crazy, huh? Those robots were pretty tough, but my horn buddy and I handled them. I'm Ashido Mina, by the way. And this is Kirishima Izuku. She introduced herself and her friend. She's the energetic type, I can tell. Hello. I'm Uraka Ochako. And he's Midoriya Izuku. Nice to meet you. Leave it to Ochako to make a good impression. They seemed to take this well and asked if they could join us. Ochako was fine with it, so it was okay with me. This wasn't really a date either, so they weren't interrupting anything. Turns out that we got along rather well. Kirishima was the general manly man for the most part. He was extroverted and open about what he thought. He was also rather earnest and helpful, spending a good deal of his time helping the other examinees when they bit more off than they could chew. Mina was similar but a lot more mischievous. She was the fun-loving sort, not afraid to speak her mind or tease people when they make it too easy, as we found out when she started teasing us over our relationship. But thanks to Gamer's Mind and my high cha, I was able to hold my own. Speaking of stats, I was curious. Analyze. Ashido Mina. Age, 15. Level, 22. Height, 159 centimeters. Weight, like a feather, you bastard. 3 sizes. I might tell you if you're a good boy. Stats. HP, 300. SP, 600. STR, 14. AGI, 25. End, 30. INT, 13. Wise, 9. Cha, 26. Highest level skills. Acid Quirk LV 25. Acid Splash LV 10. Acid Slide LV 15. Interesting. She has a strong quirk, but her physical statistics are nothing to scoff at either. But, is the game being snarky? And why is its sense of humor so juvenile? Oh well, it's helped me enough, I can let this slide. Kirishima, on the other hand, had the polar opposite stat sheet. Kirishima Izuku. Age, 15. Level 24. Height, 170 centimeters. Weight, rock. Stats, STR, 30. AGI, 15. End, 40. INT, 16. Wise, 12. Cha, 21. Highest level skills. Hardening LV 15. User's body hardens into a stone-like consistency. Doubles user's current STR and quadruples N. Heavy lifting LV max. Boxing LV 25. Kirishima was a strength and endurance type. His quirk was pretty common. Hardening quirks had a pretty wide spectrum of usefulness, but to have it quadruple his endurance was quite something, and it was still a pretty low level, so it should get much stronger in the future. We spent a bit of time talking amongst ourselves, slowly getting to know each other. It was good to know that we potentially made some friends before even making it to UA. Hopefully they both pass, and if we're lucky we'll all be in the same class. Then again, what are the odds of that? How do you guys think you did? I got 39 points, so I think I'm pretty safe. Ashido-san got 28 points, so if I did particularly well then she should be fine too. Not bad. If Ochako was the average, then these two should be relatively fine. That's really good, Kirishima-san. I only got 35 points myself. I'm sure Ashido-san should pass too. Well, there goes a complete 180 on her confidence. I guess when other people get similar scores to her, it boosts her confidence a bit. Really, that's a relief, to be honest. Hey Midoriya-san, how many points did you get? I grew a bit sheepish at that. Honestly, I have no idea. I lost count after the first 20. Who knew that fighting robots would be so fun? I finally had a chance to cut loose without hurting anyone, or getting myself implanted into the nearest wall. I may be a little sour about that. Really? I guess that makes sense. It was pretty chaotic, and counting your points wouldn't really help do anything except make you nervous. Kirishima commented, understanding why I would lose track so easily. It's getting pretty late. We should get going. See you guys at UA. It was about 6 p.m. already, a bit late to be out. As we said our goodbyes, the girls got the idea to exchange numbers to see if we could meet up later. Although they lived in another prefecture, so it would be tough to see each other outside of school. I'd call this a good day overall, although there was one thing that unnerved me. Ever since I finished the entrance exam, I haven't been able to contact All Might at all. Now, this wasn't completely surprising. He was a busy man, and there was possible that he simply found work somewhere that needed him to keep quiet. Hopefully, he'll be finished with that work soon enough. I want to thank him personally for everything he did for me. 3 weeks later, it was time. Ochako and I decided to open our letters together once we got them. As luck would have it, UA's postal system was on point and we both got them at the same time. We chose to do it at my house since she lived alone in an apartment. Plus, Mom wanted to meet her for a long while now. Mom, we're here. I called out to her. Ochako was behind me as we walked in, UA letters in hand. Welcome back, Izuku. You must be Uraraka-san. Izuku has told me so much about you. It's a pleasure to meet you. She gave a slight bow of acknowledgement, which got Ochako a bit nervous. Likewise, Midoriya-san. Ochako responded with a slightly deeper than average bow. Mom was having none of that though. Oh nonsense, just call me Inko. With how close you are with my Izuku, we're practically family. Yeah, Mom was pretty ecstatic when she found out that I had a girlfriend, to the point that I worried over how she would react if she met Ochako. Thankfully, her enthusiasm has lowered slightly since then, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Okay. Thank you, Inko-san. We should open our letters now. I'll be honest, I'm still a little nervous. I shook my head a bit, but she was right. We should get it over with. It was decided that we would do hers first since she was the guest of honor. Apparently, UA liked to go all out with their acceptance letters, as a hologram projector of all things was inside the envelope. To our collective shock, All Might of all people was the one to appear. I am here as a projection. He introduced himself in his usual over-the-top fashion. Sorry for now keeping in contact with you and young Midoriya, but with great power comes a great deal of paperwork. You're looking at the newest member of UAS faculty, he announced to our shock, and our near immediate amusement, as All Might was reprimanded for showboating and taking too long. Well, it's time for your results. You passed the written exam quite easily with a score of 92%. It's rather commendable and would already guarantee you a spot in UAS general course. Of course, that's not what you're here for. You earned a substantial 35 villain points during the exams. Good job. However, that is not enough to pass in and of itself. I'm sorry. Ochako was close to crying at that. I'm pretty sure that me hugging her was the only thing that was keeping her together. That is, if we were only counting villain points. It continued to our confusion. You see, we at UA acknowledge that there is more to hero work than just taking down the bad guys. As such, a group of judges watches over the exams and award points according to how you helped others during the exams. Hero points. Uraraka-san have earned a whopping 45 hero points, giving you a total of 80 points. Congratulations, you passed with flying colors. I'm going to punch him in the face the next time I see him. I promised out loud. That was a low blow he tried to pull there. Ochako seemed to panic when I said that, while Mom was in full agreement. You don't just make a girl nearly cry and get away with it. Well, if I pass, that just means that you definitely gotten Deku-kun. Let's open your letter next, she said, trying to defuse the situation. You're right. She let out a sigh of relief. If he did the same thing with my letter, I'll punch him twice. And she immediately grew paler at that. I opened my letter and another projector slid out. I am here as a projection. The introduction followed the same pattern as the last one. The only difference was my score, which honestly surprised me. You aced the written exam. In fact, you tied for first place along with one of your future classmates. I'll let you figure out who. To my slight embarrassment, Mom burst into tears when she realized that I had the top score in such a prestigious school, while Ochako kissed me on the cheek in congratulations. But of course you're here for the hero course. You've earned a whopping 60 villain points. Now that alone would be enough to earn you a spot in the hero course. However, there he explained the hero point system again. Okay, so I'll only punch him once. I might even use 50% instead of a full-powered one. I'll even give a fair warning before I do. That stunt you pulled with the 0-pointer stunned the judges so much that they gave you the highest score possible. An additional 60 hero points, giving you a total of 120 points. Congratulations, young man, you even managed to beat my old record. The projector shut off at his laughter as I sat there stunned. I knew you could do it, Deku-kun. I was glomped by my girlfriend, which managed to break me out of my trance. My mom wasn't so lucky though, and my baby B-boy BB broke all Might's record. I am so proud. Okay, I'll lower his sentencing to a low percentage smash. Mom is too happy for me to stay mad at him. Wait, I just realized. I got first place, which means that I beat Kaken's score. He's going to be beyond pissed at me. And knowing my luck, he's probably in my class. Your days. Damn it, brain, why must you end it on such a sour note? It was finally spring, which meant two things. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom and school was coming back into full swing. It was the day before school started that I decided to meet with All Might at Dagaba Beach, the place where it all started. And as a man of my word, I gave him fair warning. All Might Sensei, your little joke made Ochako-chan cry. I hope you know that you deserve this, I say with a dangerous smile as I charge my right fist with 50% of One for All. My control was all over the place though, so it could have been 35% to 75% for all I knew. I was able to use higher percentages at will, given that I pay up with HP. But my actual control was crap. His eyes widened and he bulked up in preparation as my fist was planted into his jaw, with added force from the jump that I needed to take to reach his face. Minus 440%, not bad. My control was getting better. All Might took the hit like a champ, only slightly bleeding from the mouth, but that was normal. Holy shit, did that kid just punch All Might? Is he bleeding? Crap. I didn't notice the couple that was hanging out at the gazebo. Run, young Midoriya. Run like the wind. And we did, effectively giving any anti-quirk use laws the middle finger. Oh well, most people didn't care if you just used your quirk for transportation so long as it wasn't a volatile one like Kaken. Okay, not my best decision. In my defense, that was a low blow on your part. Yeah, needless to say, our speed was more than enough to outrun the prying eyes of the public. All Might just looked sheepish as I lightly glared at him. Sorry about that, young Midoriya. I didn't think about young Uraraka's feelings on the matter. Oh, on a lighter note, I just wanted to tell you how proud I was of your performance. You barely even used One for All back there. That quirk of yours is really something. I'm not gonna lie, being praised by the #1 hero is still so surreal. In a good way, of course. Have you thought of a name for it yet? The government is only going to wait so long before they demand an update to your quirk status. He was right. I've been holding off on that to brainstorm ways that I could combine what my quirk does without giving away its true nature. It was more difficult than you might think, but in the end, I think I summed it up best with ultimate adaptation. My quirk allows my body and mind to adapt and improve at an insane rate, and with enough time and effort, I can even copy other quirks up to a limit. That last bit was to explain away the quirks that I would eventually inherit. It was quite a powerful quirk, but hopefully, it shouldn't get too much attention. Yes, that's a great name, I must say, and a pretty intimidating description, definitely top tier HAHAHA. Classic All Might. I guess he practices whenever possible so that he doesn't mess up on screen. After a quick heart-to-heart, we went our separate ways, knowing that we'd see each other in 2 days' time, since tomorrow was just a half day for orientation, and to meet the faculty. Little did I know that I was going to be doing something a bit more tiring than that. Next day, a classroom. This is it. Class 1A. Thank goodness we ended up in the same class, Deku-kun. Now we just have to check to see if Mina-san or Kirishima-kun are there. So did I, but I wasn't holding my breath. I mean, there were 40 students in 2 hero course classes. The odds of all 4 of them being in the same class were in the single digits. Ochako opens the door and immediately gets glomped by the pink terror. Ochako-chan, Midoriya-kun. I knew we'd be in the same class, probability be damned. Well, that was certainly nice. I gave Kirishima a fist bump as we walked up to each other. We were about to catch up before a new voice jumped in. Hello, my name is Ida Tenya from Sumi Academy. You're Midoriya-san, right? I would like to apologize to you for misjudging you during the entrance exam. It's obvious that you knew the true nature of the exam. As a student, you're clearly superior to me, he said while making exaggerated arm motions. Hey, true nature, he's got it all wrong. Although I have to ask, how did you know that I was related to Ingenium? Oh, he looked pretty surprised when I said that and was interrupted before he could ask me something. I give him a sheepish smile before I explained, the rest of the class paying attention now. Well, at first I just noticed how familiar you looked in general. The blue hair and such. But what really gave it away was your quirk. The engine quirk is pretty famous after all. It really wasn't all that hard. As a hero otaku, I would be ashamed if I didn't notice. Impressive. I'd expect no less from you, Midoriya-san. He praised. I held up a hand though. Although I should correct you on one thing. I had no idea about the hero point system. I just took the test blind like everyone else. But when I saw Ochako-chan being attacked by that 0-pointer, I couldn't just ignore it. I did it in the heat of the moment, that's all. To my surprise, his smile only grew at my explanation. Even better, it shows that you have the true essence of a hero, just like what the test was designed to bring out. Truly, I have a long way to go before I can reach your level. Well, he was certainly spirited. Although I can't say that I wanted all of this attention on me so early. If you're just here to socialize, then leave. A dry voice came from behind me. I turned around to see some kind of caterpillar man lying down outside of the door. This is the hero course, he said, interrupting himself as he drank a nutritional jelly in one go. It took you all 5 seconds to quiet down. Not bad but not ideal. I'm your homeroom teacher Aizawa Shota. Quickly put these on and head out to the grounds. Our teacher. That means he's a pro but I don't recognize him. Regardless, he seems like a man who values efficiency, so I don't waste any time doing as he said. The rest of the class followed shortly after. We arrived at the school's testing grounds and were met by our sister class, 1B. Amongst their ranks was a certain blonde. Deku, so you did pass. Whatever, it doesn't mean anything, I'll still crush you. Good old Kaken was in 1B, and it seems that he has a score to settle. Their teacher, the hero Vlad King, just looked exasperated. How many times do I have to tell you, Bakugou? Calm down. The blood hero scolds before turning to Aizawa. So what was so important that you wanted us to skip orientation of all things? This better be good, Aizawa-san. He sounded ticked off, probably a traditionalist. Aizawa didn't seem to care though. Today we will have a quirk apprehension test to see where everyone stands. To do this we will be doing a few basic physical tests that you should all be familiar with. However, as the test implies, you will all be able to use your quirks. Vlad-san, would you please send one of your students to demonstrate? Vlad grumbled a bit but complied, sending Kaken in for the softball throw. So long as you stay in that circle you can do whatever you want to achieve the maximum score possible, Aizawa explained as Kaken grinned. He cocked back his arm and propelled the thing into the air. Die. Classic Kaken. Aizawa pulled out a cellular device that showed his score, 705.2 meters. They were all surprised by the power behind Kaken's blast. A few even saw the exercise as a fun game, which seemed to piss Aizawa off. Fun huh? How about this then? However, gets the lowest score in my class will be deemed hopeless and expelled immediately. That certainly stopped everyone cold. What the hell? But that's not fair at all. We just got here. A boy with a headband from our class spoke up in outrage. But yet again Aizawa was unmoved. Fair. Natural disasters, highway pileups, villain attacks. None of these things are fair, yet they happen all the time. Heroes exist to overcome and mitigate this unfairness. If you all want to reach the top, then you should get used to hardships early on. This is the UAS Hero course. Welcome to your first day. He wasn't wrong. The world was unfair. There's no doubt about that. But this was just, regardless of how I felt about it. We all had to step up for the exam without exception. The students of Class 1B were impressive, and without the pressure of expulsion on their shoulders, they were a lot more relaxed as they went through the tests. We went through the tests by seating order. Class B first, followed by Class A, since Vlad was only there as a favor to Aizawa and got first dibs. The first test was a simple 50-meter dash. Most of the students of 1B had fairly normal scores since their quirks weren't speed-based. There were a few notable ones though. Katsuki Bakugou, 4.13 seconds. Hantasiro, 5.31 seconds. Mashiro Ajiru, 5.49 seconds. There were a few others that made it in under 6 seconds, but not many. Our class followed shortly after. We were a bit more speed-oriented for the most part. Ada, Asui, and I in particular had above-average scores. Suyu Asui, 5.58 seconds. Tenya Ada, 3.04 seconds. He claimed that his top speed was close to double of what he scores. With Analyze I could attest to that. Izuku Midoriya, 1.6 seconds. I was surprised at my score, to be honest. I guess AGI doesn't represent pure speed. If it did, then a score of 220-ish like I had would make me move 22 times faster than the average human, or about 500-ish kilometers per hour. Midoriya-san, you've beaten me yet again. And in a contest of speed, I must work harder. Okay, I'm flattered and all, but he really needs to ease up a bit. The hell was that, Deku? You've only had your quirk for a year. What utter bullshit is that? Confusion and jealousy. Two things I would never think Kaken could express, let alone at the same time. Too bad that his yelling caught the attention of everyone else. I didn't want that little nugget of info to leak. No way. Under a year and he's already that fast? How? One of the Class B students asked from the slowly growing crowd. All I could do was rub the back of my neck sheepishly. My quirk is a special case. It's an adaptation type quirk that lets me learn and adapt to things much faster than normal. That's why I got so strong, but I've reached some diminishing returns lately, so my future growth won't be as explosive. Pardon the pun, Kaken. Yeah, Kaken didn't like puns, go figure. That's enough. We've wasted enough time as is. If you want to socialize, do it after class. Aizawa spoke up, saving me from a veritable tsunami of questions that were no doubt on people's lips. The next test was for grip strength. Again, the results were pretty average across the board. Class B was the more strength-oriented class. They had plenty of power-type quirks including Kendo, Monoma, Bondo, Sadu, and Shoji. Most of them cracked the 300-kilo mark, while Shoji impressed everyone with his score of 540 kilograms using 3 arms. I was also pretty interested in Monoma. Copy quirks aren't very common, although I was a little afraid of what would happen if he copied the gamer. Or would one for all override it? What about when I finally inherit other people's quirks? Will he get all of them, or will it be random? I was so focused on questioning the logistics of copy quirks that I didn't notice my own score. Unluckily, Kirishima did it for me. Wholly over 700 kilos. I knew you were manly, but not that manly. Tetsu joined in shortly after. It looks like Kirishima found a kindred spirit. This is going to be my whole day, isn't it? Don't get me wrong, I like being praised as much as the next guy, but after a while, it just becomes embarrassing to have everyone look at you like the second coming of All Might or something. Oh, wait. Year days, I guess I'll have to get used to this. To my surprise, someone actually managed to beat my score, while Yaoyorozu-sen managed to get 1,000 kilos. She created an industrial clamp and just used that. I'm not even mad, that's impressive. If anything, I was happy that someone managed to beat my score. It got some of the attention off of me. I should thank her later. And that name, it seems oddly familiar. The third test was the standing long jump. The scores for this one were hit or miss. Either the person got a perfectly average score or they jumped the sand entirely. The ones that made it all the way were myself, Ochako, Yaoyorozu, Ida, Todoroki, Shizaki, Asui, Kaken, Monoma, Takage, Minta, Shoji, Takoyami, Aoyama, and Siro. The fourth test was also pretty basic. Only Minta and Monoma managed to get a good score, bouncing off their respective purple balls for victory. Komori tried something similar with her mushrooms, but it didn't work quite the same way. I was also close behind, but this isn't the kind of speed that I was used to. The fifth event was what most people were waiting for after witnessing Kaken's energetic example. Since he already went, he was exempt from participating. His classmates were no slouches though. Takage in particular, and Monoma by extension, blew the rest of Class B out of the water. Considering the fact that she could fly with her quirk, all she had to do was levitate the ball up as far as she wanted while staying in the circle. Aizawa showed their scores. 15 kilometers, they had to stop their sense any higher, and their flesh might start to boil from the low-pressure environment. As for Class A, we had a bit of an unfair advantage. Momo for one created a military-grade grenade launcher and blasted the ball nearly 3 kilometers into the air. Koda asked a small flock of pigeons to carry the thing as high as they could, about 2 kilometers. And Ochako was our star student in this one, seeing as she scored an infinity. Yeah, it really wasn't a fair comparison. It was my turn to give it a try when Aizawa addressed me. Midoriya, during the entrance exam, you demonstrated a power that far exceeds what you have shown today. There better be a good reason why you're holding back. Oh, so he noticed. Let's see if that story All Might and I came up with will cut it. I can use that power, yes, but it will leave me injured afterward. While my quirk does give me a decent regeneration rate, it would still take a while to heal my arm. Actually, I just thought of something that might make a good compromise, I said with a smile on my face. Ochako noticed and facepalmed, knowing what I was about to do. Deku-kun, this isn't helping your case, you know. I just shrugged and entered the throwing circle. I should probably give some context to this for the sake of the other students. My quirk is made for adaptation and learning. One of the benefits of this is that I can occasionally copy the moves and abilities of other people, but only if I know them well enough to pull it off. And, well, I was always a big All Might fan, so when I got my quirk I just had to try it. I cocked back my arm and charged up One for All into my finger at 100%. Since it was just my finger, the damage was going to be reduced significantly, an exploit that the game praised me for. Delaware Smash, -90. The ball was sent flying, leaving behind a sonic boom as it flew. My superior strength enhanced with One for All was pretty damn effective. Even Aizawa was marginally impressed by what I did as he showed off my score. 6 kilometers. He wasn't the only one that was impressed. While my score wasn't the highest, it wasn't anything to scoff at either, especially when you remember that I did it with just one finger. Kaken in particular was doing his best Enru impression as he barely restrained himself from rocketing over to me and demanding answers. Good thing we came up with that story. Otherwise, I don't think he could restrain his curiosity like he has now. You focused all of the power you collected into your finger. Not bad. You said you had regeneration, right? How long will it take you to heal that broken finger? I did some quick math in my head and answered. About 3 minutes. He nodded and the tests went on. I wasn't deemed injured enough to need recovery girl since my natural healing would take care of it anyway. In fact, by the time the next test was over I was already healed. The seated toe touch wasn't exactly difficult, although some people were more flexible than others. The sit-up test was equally simple. I won easily enough. With my max levels and basic exercises I had effectively infinite stamina for most physical exams. Kaken tried to keep up, but that just wasn't realistic. As for the long-distance run, someone actually tied with me. Yaoyorozu created a solar-powered scooter and just kept going along with me. Eventually, we just conversed with each other for 5 minutes until Aizawa realized that neither of us was going to stop in the foreseeable future. The scores have been averaged out for the sake of convenience. Oh, and about that expulsion, I lied. He lied that time. Thankfully, with my cha and wise stat, I was getting pretty good at telling lies. It wasn't perfect, but it helped against people that weren't trying too hard to hide something. Yaoyorozu Momo, Midoriya Izuku, Todoroki Shoto, Monoma Nito, Bakugou Katsuki. Most people were fine with their scores, although Kaken was being a bit of a sore loser. I guess coming in 5th place was a huge blow to his pride. There was heavy relief coming from Yosu Uwase, who got the lowest score in Class 1A, although Yaoyorozu was surprised that they thought Aizawa was actually going to expel someone. I walked up to her to congratulate her on the win. "Hello, Yaoyorozu-san. That was a great showing you had. That quirk of yours is amazingly versatile." She smiled and returned the compliment. "Thank you. I can say the same about yours, Midoriya-san. It took me years to learn how to use my quirk at my level, yet you achieved such impressive results in under one. It's rather inspiring. Something tells me that we were going to get along just fine. Deku-kun, we should get going." Aizawa-sensei left our syllabuses on our desks. Ochako said as she walked up to us. She noticed Yaoyorozu and introduced herself. "You're Yaoyorozu-san, right? My name is Uraraka Ochako. Pleasure to meet you." Yaoyorozu returned the greeting and agreed that we should head back to class. After we gathered our syllabuses, we walked towards the exit together, only for me to be glomped from behind by Ashido. I guess she had a 1 glomp per person rule or something. "Midoriya-kun, that was amazing. Why didn't you tell us you could do all that?" she yelled in a false hurt tone. "It never came up," I said with a shrug, which got her off of me. Kirishima was there as always, and Tetsu joined in the mini group as well. I guess I was right. Those two made fast friends. Yaoyorozu also seemed to get along with Ochako and Mina. She had a surprisingly bubbly personality under her serious, studious persona. Our not-so-little motley crew of 6 walked together once more before we were stopped once again. "Hello, Midoriya-san. Is it okay if I walk with you as well?" The voice of Ida spoke up from behind me. I turned and greeted him back. Sure, the more the merrier, I guess. He ended up starting a conversation about how Aizawa handled the class with his expulsion threat, and how it was both igneous and unbecoming of a teacher. Yaoyorozu again said how she realized it from the start, saying that no teacher would really expel someone on the first day. I hate to break it to you, Yaoyorozu-san, but he wasn't lying. At least about it being a clever ruse. He was fully intent on expelling anyone who showed no potential. I give her the bad news, which shocks most of the people walking with us. "And how do you know this, Midoriya-san?" Ida asked curiously. Not happy about how Aizawa played them like a fiddle. "It's a byproduct of my quirk. It helps me read people better. It's not mind reading or even cold reading. I just have a way of noticing when things don't add up in conversation and stuff like that. A skilled liar can still trick me." I explained away some of my power, although Ochako knew the real reason already. "You said that my quirk was amazingly versatile, but yours seems to be just as useful in so many ways. Super strength, speed, learning ability, and you can read social situations easier. It's almost as if your quirk can do anything." Yaoyorozu summed up my problem. "It's hard to attribute all of that to just one ability, and when I do inherit more quirks, that's going to be even more difficult to explain. Well, I'd love to walk with you all, but I already have transportation for heading home. I'll see you all tomorrow," Yaoyorozu said abruptly as she walked over to a parked limousine, which then drove off, leaving most of us stunned. So that's why the name Yaoyorozu seemed familiar. They are an extremely rich hero family. Oh well, at least she didn't seem to show off her wealth out of malice. I think it's about time to knock the others out of their trance. "Okay guys, no need to gawk for so long. We're gonna miss our train if we don't get moving." That shook them out of their stunned states as they all agreed to pick up the pace. It was another good day if you asked me. We all cut loose a bit, and I even managed to make quite a number of new friends. Our second day of school was a lot less hectic compared to the first. We started the day off with homeroom. Aka Aizawa takes a nap while we introduce ourselves to each other. Next, we had an English class with present Mike. He was a surprisingly good teacher, if a bit overzealous. Skill learned, English proficiency LV 15. Languages skill tree unlocked. Having a dad that works overseas does have its benefits. He always tried to teach me what he could while he was around. And what's better to learn than the most spoken language on the planet? Next up, we had modern literature with Cementos, although the name for the class was a bit of a misnomer. It dealt with literature written shortly before quirks started to appear. The modern era, which was followed by the quirk era, which was then followed by the hero era, so these stories were all a good 150 plus years old. Plus one wise for taking in the wisdom of the past. Who knew the gamer was philosophical? Anyway, our third period was modern hero art history. Yes, it is a mouthful, and yes, it was probably intentional. Historians are pranksters like that. To our surprise, we had Midnight of all people teaching that. I wasn't too bad at it though, having a few years worth of amateur sketching to fall back on. Plus the gamer helped me out with the more complicated stuff. Skill learned, drawing LV 20. The art skill tree unlocked. Skill learned, painting LV 5. Decently useful skills for a hero. They also improved my job by a small amount, so I couldn't complain. Next up was mathematics with ectoplasm. I was already way ahead of this class since I spent a good deal of the training time last year studying up. In fact, my basic math skills were already maxed out, so the class was a breeze. We ate lunch afterward. The food got a unanimous delicious from everyone who ate it, courtesy of the cook hero. Lunch rush. Truly, he is the highest tier of hero. As our stomachs were filled, a conversation sparked. The topic, our next teacher. Can you guys believe that All Might of all people is going to be teaching hero studies at UA? When I saw him on the projector, I could barely focus on what he said. Kirishima started it off while hyping himself up for our last period of the day. I know what you mean. Having the top hero be our teacher is an honor that can't be understated. Ada agreed, trying to keep things formal with the admittedly large group of friends that were all sitting at the same table. Well, it does sort of make sense. All Might is getting older nowadays, and this was the place where he learned. It's not too surprising that he chose to come back to teach the next generation. I cover for him a bit. It wasn't technically wrong either. How do you know how old All Might is? That isn't exactly public information, Kirishima asked, looking at me a bit weirdly. Crap, I gotta salvage this. He made his debut in America right after graduating from UA. That was 30 years ago. Assuming that he graduated at the age of 18 like most people do, it would make him 48 years old now. Our table went silent for a bit until Kaken summed up what I said with a single word. N-E-R-D-D-D. Sigh, I can't really deny that. But to be fair, Kaken was just as much of an All Might nerd as I was. I hate to agree with Bakugou-san, but he's not wrong. You really take fanboying to a new level, Deku-kun. Ochako played along, knowing that I didn't want to reveal my connection to All Might. The others still looked curious though. What's the story between you and Bakugou-san, by the way? It's like you two know each other, along with Ochako-san. Mina asked, looking curious as well. I never did tell them about how we all met before. Kaken and I knew each other since we were kids. We actually used to be best friends, but ever since he got his quirk, he grew cocky and became a bully to those weaker than him. Since I grew up quirkless, you can imagine who his favorite target was. That's where the name Deku comes from. It means useless. Not that the name really bothered me now. A special someone turned it into something positive. Then why do you let Ochako-san call you that? Is what she told us about you being into that sort of stuff true? Mina said the last part with a fake gasp. I just choked on my drink. Oh, cough, Ochako-chan, what have you been telling them? She gave me a sheepish look and a blush before looking away. I know she started calling me that because she thought it sounded like Dekaroo. The word for you can do it. I liked that meaning and decided to keep it. With our lunch finished, we headed over to our last period of the day, hero studies. All Might was late for his first day. Knowing him, he's probably preparing himself to make a grand IAM. Coming through the door like a normal person. Yeah, his cheesy nature easily captivated most of the students there. Ochako and I, not so much. We've gotten used to it after the first few months, and now it was just normal. Hero basic training. The class that molds you into heroes. It also provides tons of credits. I sure hope it does, considering that it takes up 2 or more class periods every day. No time to dally. Today's activity is battle training. Already, I guess he wants to check out how everyone is currently. Then again, shouldn't we be doing basic safety training and scenario drills first? Normally yes, but I firmly believe that practical experience trumps theory any day. Other lessons will be taught throughout the year, but I want to get a firm baseline on all of your skills first. Crap, did I say that out loud? I thought I broke that habit years ago. No, you still mutter all the time. We just stopped trying to stop you after the 100th time. Ochako nodded her head in agreement at that. Wait a second. Did they just reveal our relationship for a gag? But will you look at the time? Please get dressed, everyone. Your hero costumes have finally been made. You can find them in these containers labeled by seating order. Meet me at ground beta and forget everything that was just said. And he booked it to ground beta, leaving everyone stunned and confused. I just picked up my costume and sped off to the changing rooms to avoid any questions. I know I can't avoid this forever, but by a sobai I'm gonna try. On the plus side, my AGI score helps me get dressed faster, so that's a thing. I'll be the first to admit that my hero costume wasn't very impressive. Well, in a way it was. My mother, an amateur with no experience, made it, and it was completely functional and rather cheap. Of course, I was going to wear it. This suit represents my mother's love. Although I could do without the rabbit ears. Child me wasn't the smartest. I know I wanted to make it look like All Might, but still. Oh great, he's laughing at the sight of them. Was it that obvious? I think it's cute, Deku-kun. You are kind of like a rabbit. You're really fast. You're pretty shy, and I've never seen you get tired either. Ochako said as she arrived with a few other students. Oh god, why? Was my only thought when I noticed the skin-tight bodysuit. Hers wasn't the only one though. I wasn't that lucky. Mina thought it was a good idea to wear something that wouldn't look out of place in a 1970s disco party. Yanagi, Tsunotori, Komori, and Shizaki at least had some restraint. And by restraint I mean that their costumes weren't skin-tight. And finally, there was Yayo. Has stopped working. Please consult the user's manual for technical support. Gamer's mind temporarily disabled for the sake of hilarity. Calm down, Deku. You have a girlfriend, damn it. Keep eye contact. Eye contact. The cause of my current mental breakdown was currently heading my way with a questioning look on her face. Midoriya-kun, I'm sorry if this might come off as rude or pushy, but what is your relationship with All Might Sensei? Crap, I knew she would pick up on that and have the courage to ask. It's complicated. I guess you could say he made me who I am today. No, that was way too vague. They're going to get the wrong idea. Oh my, I understand. Please forgive my rudeness. No. I think that's enough comedy for one chapter. Now that everyone's here, we should get on with the battle training. A team match between heroes and villains. The teams were also completely random. Makes sense. Sensei, is it truly wise to let such an important decision fall to random chance? Ida asked, concerned over the method. I cleared it up by mentioning how heroes are often paired up at random depending on the situation, along with the fact that heroes were almost always at a disadvantage since villains tended to be the instigator of most encounters. We each picked lots to determine our teams first. Isui-san and I ended up drawing the slots. The other teams were Team B, Tetsu and Kirishima. Team C, Todoroki and Koda. Team D, Oase and Shishida. Team E, Meina and Rin. Team F, Komori and Yanagi. Team G, Ida and Ochako. Team H, Kodai and Shota. Team I, Yaoyorozu and Tsunotori. Team J, Shozaki and Manga. Nice to meet you, Isui-san. I hope we can work together well. She nodded but asked me to call her by her first name. Oh, sure. If you want, you can call me Izuku too. I don't mind. I guess she wanted to try and make new friends fast. I could relate to that. Now for the matchups. There are 10 slots in this box. The one I pick up with my right hand are villains while the left are heroes. He pulled 2 slots from the box. Hero Team B, Villain Team D. This could be interesting, but Team D was at a bit of a disadvantage. Normally Oase's melding quirk would make short work of most people, preventing them from moving under most circumstances. However, with Kirishima and Tetsu, he just keeps charging at us like a mad dog. The disbelieving yell of Shishida came from All Might's earpiece, so loud that he had to take it out for a moment. Poor guy. He had a pretty good plan laid out from the start. Oase would use his quirk to halt the inevitable Leroy Jenkins maneuver from the 2 hardening users while using his enhanced bestial strength and speed to capture both would-be heroes. Yeah, it's going to take a bit more than some concrete or metal restraints to stop these two, even if they were bonded at the molecular level. At most, it's just weighing them down and making their punches heavier as a consequence. Shishida tried his best to combat the 2 juggernauts, but his strength also had limits. If it was just one of them, then maybe, but their defensive quirks made any attacks ineffective. And with the extra weight behind their punches from their restraints, it ended up leading to their victory. I guess charging into battle like a madman does have its uses sometimes. I wonder how All Might's gonna spin this one. Teaching his students to throw caution to the wind would be counterproductive. That, children, is why you should never be too sure about a plan. No plan survives first contact with the enemy and all that. Sometimes your opponents will simply use overwhelming force and shock tactics to succeed. A decent number of heroes and villains overthink things sometimes, and it can lead to things like this happening. Smooth, I'll give him that. Then again, the plan was solid. The materials on hand just limited their performance. Oase should look into getting sturdier materials for his metal blocks. That being said, the 2 heroes had an equal impact on the battle, so I can't rightfully give the position of MVP to either. So I'll give it to both of them instead. The next teams to fight were Hero Team F, Villain Team H. This matchup wasn't even fair. All Team F had to do was send Komori's spores into their opponent's lungs using Yanaga's poltergeist quirk. They were too busy trying to breathe to notice the Hero Team disable the bomb in record time. The good news was that the mushrooms could disappear at will, so there were no long-term complications. That's one scary combo. I mean, good job, Hero Team. That was an excellent use of each other's talent. Full marks. However, please note that while asphyxiation is an effective combat tactic, it is also a dangerous one. Please use it sparingly. I guess even All Might was a little freaked out by the imagery that mushrooms in the lungs conjured. Now, while young Komori's quirk was the one to deal the damage, young Yanagi was the one to skillfully maneuver them into the villain's lungs. So I think it's fair to give her the MVP title. The next match was ours. Tsuyu and I were drawn as the villain team to our slight discomfort, while Todoroki and Koda were the heroes. I gave a short nod to our opponents out of respect, which Koda reciprocated, but to my surprise, Todoroki just glared at me for some reason. Does he see me as a rival or something? It would make sense seeing who his dad is. It made sense, sure, but something didn't seem quite right with that explanation. Either way, this was going to be a tough fight. I saw what Todoroki could do in yesterday's test, and it didn't bode well for Tsuyu in particular. Tsuyu-san, I'm just guessing here, but does her quirk make you weak to the cold? Unsurprisingly, she nodded. Her frog physiology made her hibernate in the cold weather, and since she didn't bring any winter gear with her, She went on to explain the rest of her quirk, and when she mentioned that she could climb walls, my mind went into overdrive. Okay, we can work with this. Todoroki-san is no doubt going to try large-scale ice attacks first. He's shown more than enough power during the tests yesterday to prove that he can. When he does that, you should be outside the building to avoid the initial attack. I got you so far. I imagine that you want me to head to the lower floors and try to take potshots at them and possibly separate the two. I nod at that. It was a good idea. If we could take out Koda, that was one fewer issue to deal with. Good plan, although I should probably bring this thing to the top floor. It should buy us a bit of time. Meanwhile, you should head to the side of the building on the top floor and escape through a window from there. No sense in having the enemy see them coming after all. Too bad her quirk didn't give her camouflage. Try to scout out their opening move and act accordingly. If the two ever separate, take out Koda first. He's fairly durable, but his quirk isn't a combat-based one, so I'm sure you can take him on your own. Tsuyu seemed to approve of the plan as she headed to the top floor with a smile on her face. I chuckled and did the same. It was a huge pain getting the bomb into the building, though. Most of the doors were barely wide enough to pass through with it. Everything was ready. The bomb was set at the top floor, and Tsuyu was ready to head outside the moment All Might signals you indoor interpersonal battle training. Start. Well, I guess this is it. Did it just get colder? Tsuyu POV. Izuku-kun was right. He didn't even consult his teammate first. The whole building is frozen, even a bit of the outside. Scary. As luck would have it, Todoroki didn't even spare his teammate a second glance as he entered the frozen building, leaving the stunned Koda all by himself. Now's my chance. I dropped down and used my tongue to trip Koda off his feet. While he was distracted and trying to get up, I wrapped some capture tape around his waist. Hero captured. Good work, young Asui. All Might said through my earpiece, confirming the capture without alerting the other two members of either team. Time to help out Izuku-kun. He probably got his feet frozen by Todoroki-san. Hopefully that strength of his will be enough. As I climbed up the side of the building, I felt something strange, like the temperature just climbed up several degrees. What's going on up there? Izuku POV. Well, this was a bit overkill. My feet are frozen. Sigh. I prepared myself mentally and pulled on them with my full strength. -50 dull pain has leveled up. Cold resistance has been unlocked. Oh, that stings. No time to dwell on it, though. Todoroki-san's probably confident that he got me with that. I should surprise him as he's coming up the stairs. I headed towards the 3rd floor before I started hearing footsteps. Heading back to the 4th floor, I prepared a Delaware smash for when Todoroki would appear. And boy, was he surprised when he saw me standing there, bloody feet and all, ready to flick my finger at him. Smash. The air pressure from the attack sent Todoroki flying down the stairs and nearly into the concrete wall if it weren't for the wave of ice that he summoned up to cushion his fall and change his trajectory. What? How are you still moving with your feet like that? He yelled in disbelief as I charged at him. It's going to take a lot more than that to slow me down. A regular punch was aimed at his stomach, but Todoroki took no chances as he created an ice wall to intercept it. It was far too thin, though. Todoroki was not expecting Izuku's natural strength to be able to break through it. The punch connected. Though much of its force was stopped by the earlier wall, it still did significant damage, with another punch headed right for his left shoulder, aiming to dislocate it. And it did, only to be burned by a sudden eruption of fire from said shoulder. -300. Fire resistance has leveled up 2x. Tisk clever, he hit his fireside until just now. I fell for it even though his hair really should have tipped me off. Quirks were weird like that. They usually left a mark on the physical body in one way or another. The punch did land, however, and this time it wasn't held back by a solid wall, just weak flames that did much less damage than usual due to my resistance. Todoroki was sent flying from it and landed face first. I took this as my chance to capture him. He tried to resist, of course, but I just pointed a finger at him, ready to flick at any sign of a struggle. Young Midoriya has captured young Todoroki. This exercise is over. Villain team wins. An excellent battle. Young Midoriya showed excellent tactical and strategic skills along with young Asui, who provided excellent feedback and suggestion. Her early takedown of young Koda was perfectly executed and well planned out. We took our praise pretty gracefully. I admit, though, it was a tough fight against Todoroki. If I didn't catch him by surprise, it might not have ended the same. It was a difficult decision, but I believe young Midoriya deserves the MVP title for his great plan and his ability to push past the pain and achieve victory. I took it with a smile. Tsuyu seemed to agree as well, giving me a high five when he said it. Now for the hero team. Young Todoroki's plan might have been effective against most people, but it was also rather predictable, which young Midoriya exploited. His plan also left out young Koda from participating. Along with young Todoroki's reckless choice to go in alone, I'd say that teamwork and communication are what you need to work on most. Todoroki wasn't too happy with that assessment, but he acknowledged that he had made a bad call by going in alone, and that he underestimated Tsuyu and I. As for young Koda, he allowed young Todoroki to dictate the plan along with freezing up, forgive the pun, when young Todoroki froze the building. This allowed young Asui to more easily capture you. Situational awareness and calmness in a battle are what you need most for now. Koda took his critiques much better. He already knew that his quiet and soft nature needed some work and that he really shouldn't freeze up like that. He even came over to us for a handshake. I had to decline, though my fingers were still broken and slightly burned. Todoroki was a bit of a sore loser, it seems. He spent the rest of the time glaring at his left fist for some reason, not sparring anyone else a word. I guess he wanted to save his fire quirk for later. He really shouldn't hold himself back like that in a real fight, I thought to myself, having no idea about the can of worms I just opened. After our last fight, the mood had grown a bit antsy. I guess it was a bit brutal compared to the earlier ones. Anyway, the next two teams to fight were Hero Team I, Villain Team G. This was going to be a tough one. It could go either way. Honestly, both teams have a great deal of versatility in their arsenals. I was going through scenarios in my head when someone tapped my shoulder, which shook me out of my thoughts. Hey Midoriya-san, that was an awesome fight, but are your feet okay? Komori asked me with a concerned look on her face. She has really pretty eyes. Wait, no. I blush a bit and answer before I get different kinds of strange looks. Why, yeah, they're fine. I heal really fast, remember. I play it off, but she asked me if it hurt when I did that. Yeah, but only for a few minutes. I just power through it for the most part. Why were Kirishima's eyes glowing? Tetsu too. Weird. You must be really tough. I don't think I could do that so casually. Away spoke up with growing respect in his eyes. Shizaki also added her 2 cents, although she was a bit more formal in comparison. To overcome such pain in the face of one's duty is a great virtue. I have much to learn from you, Midoriya-san. She was a rather spiritual person, specifically a Christian, which made it rather awkward for me to speak to her considering that I had a god sponsoring me. Begin. I got distracted and didn't pay attention to the setup. It looks like Ochako went for the optimal strategy after all. All that quirk training and strategy sessions with All Might and I paid off, it seems. Ochako POV. This is a magnificent plan, Uraraka-san. How did you come up with it? Ada asked me while I floated the bomb high up into the air right as the battle started, preventing the other team from noticing. Honestly, I just asked myself, what would Deku-kun do in this situation? And I got this. We used to spend a lot of time working on strategies and tactics that incorporated our quirks, and this was one of his favorites. Zero gravity is tricky to fight against without flight or teleportation. Midoriya-san, he really is something else. Strong, fast, intelligent, and he has a charisma that not many can match. I've chosen a good rival. I smile at him and then got serious. Right, this is just the first step of the plan, but it won't work for long if we get found out. Yaorazu-san could probably create something to bring it back down even if I don't get taken out, so distracting them is a must. With Ida's speed, he could find the enemy easily and pick them off, or at least distract them for a good long while. Villains had the advantage with this exercise. After all, time was on their side. Third-person POV monitor room. This isn't going to end well for the hero team. Yaorazu-san is smart, but Ochako-chan has a pretty good plan too. Even if the heroes do realize what's going on, they might not have enough time left to recover the bomb, and that's assuming that Yaorazu-san can create something that could reach it and bring it back down to Earth without destroying it. Besides, if things go poorly, then Ochako-chan could just drop the damn thing and foresee Wenthan Wahave Tsuno Toritori Haba. So fast. Does he have a second quirk or something? Was the collective thought amongst our heroes' classmates. Even All Might, who was used to this by now, could barely keep up. Quiet, young Midoriya, you're missing the action, their instructor said, having enough of his successor's nonsense. All right, sorry I got carried away. The fight was as Izuku imagined, a long and drawn-out one. On purpose, of course. Ida spent most of his time harassing the enemy team and being a general distraction, while Ochako tried to place weightless traps at various positions to trip up the hero team as well. In the end, Ida was captured by a well-thought-out net trap made by Yaorazu, but he was only one villain. Ochako made the executive decision to stay out of sight for the rest of the test, which wasn't too hard considering that they only had a minute or two before time was up. Time's up. Villain team wins. The battle ended right after. Yaorazu looked a bit disappointed in herself, but Ochako quickly lifted her spirits when she came out of her hiding place. After Ida was set free, they all headed back to the monitor room. You all did great work, but there can only be one winning team. Young Uraraka made an ingenious plan with how she raised the bomb into the air using her quirk. It was a catch-22 scenario in a way, something that he'll have to change if they ever did this exercise again. If young Uraraka was captured and forced to release the bomb, then it would fall and explode anyway, ending the match in a draw. That, along with her plan to use young Ida for hit-and-run tactics along with her rather impressive weightless traps, has earned her the MPV spot. Nobody could really deny this. She was instrumental in her team's victory and played a big role even towards the end. Izuku gave her a congratulatory hug and Ida a handshake for the win. Now for the villain team, young Yaoyorozu did well utilizing her quirk to minimize the damage from young Uraraka's gravity traps and young Ida's constant attacks, while young Tsunotori acted calmly while using her quirk to keep young Ida on his toes. That along with young Yaoyorozu's use of a net to capture young Ida has earned you quite a few points even if your team technically lost. Good job all around. Izuku POV. I headed over to the hero team to see how they were holding up. We were moving the scenario to another building, so it was going to take a few minutes for the next team to be ready. Hey Yaoyorozu-san, Tsunotori-san, you two did great. Yaoyorozu met my gaze with a light smile, but Tsunotori just hunkered down a bit. A shy one, I suppose. Thank you, Mr. Green. Sorry if my Japanese is a bit slow. Oh, she's from overseas. Good thing I had those early English lessons. No problem at all. I spoke in English to her great surprise. My English isn't very good either, so we might be able to help each other out. I finished sheepishly, my English skill not being at the passing level. Oh, you speak English very well. I thought only Momo knew how. Momo? Oh, right, they're a bit more casual in Western countries. Probably the States judging from the accent. Yeah, my dad taught me a bit when I was younger. He works overseas, so I picked a few things up. If it makes you more comfortable, you can call me Izuku. I don't mind. Honestly, I never cared much for what people call me. For most of my childhood, I was called Deku, so being called by my first name wouldn't bother me or anything. Is that so? Then to be honest, I would like to start calling you Izuku-san as well. You can call me Momo, of course. We've become pretty good friends even if it's only been 2 days. It seems that Yao Momo is on board. Wait, that's the perfect nickname I'm using that the first opportunity I get. Sure, we're all classmates. After all, might as well try to be friends. By the way, do you walk to the train station after school? If so, you can come with us. We usually walk together with some other friends. I offered, getting an enthusiastic nod from. And so we ended that day with a new addition to our not-so-little group of friends. We hadn't quite expected what the next day would bring, however, although considering who one of our teachers were, we really should have. What's it like learning from All Might? A random reporter asked me on my way to school, pointing a microphone right at my face. I was pretty annoyed, all things told. You can't just stop a kid in the middle of the damn street like that. No subtlety whatsoever. You know, we only had him for a day, right? That's not the point, though. You should all leave before this situation gets worse. I'm sure UA doesn't take kindly to people harassing their students right before class starts. I gave them my best Aizawa impression, which seems to scare them off for now. My classmates weren't so lucky. He's off today. This mob is pointless. If you want to get answers from him, come back another day. Preferably when after school hours are over. Aizawa tried his best to shoo away the reporters to little effect. Logic didn't seem to work against them. I looked around to make sure that the coast was clear and let off a Delaware smash into the air, which let off a loud boom before I quickly ran towards the UA gates. That air pressure. Was that All Might? I yelled out, getting the attention of the reporters who flocked away towards the source of the sound. That should buy us a few minutes. Good work, Midoriya. I'll let the unauthorized use of your quirk slide this time, Aizawa said with a grin at the trick I used to get rid of the vultures. The school decided it would be best to erect the UA barrier for the rest of the day, just in case anyone with a speed infiltration quirk tried anything funny. We all reached our homeroom class, which started with Aizawa mentioning our scores from yesterday's battle trial. I've looked over your results and they're mostly fine. A few of you need to work on your decision-making and on-the-fly strategy, but other than that, good job. However, he looked at Todoroki dead in the eye. Todoroki, confidence is important, but don't allow it to become arrogance. You entered enemy territory completely sure that you took out your enemy with no proof whatsoever. You also abandoned your teammate without sparing him a second thought. These aren't the qualities of a hero. I expect you to learn from the lesson Midoriya gave you yesterday. Okay, what he said might be true, but did he have to bring me into this? I'm already pretty sure that Todoroki doesn't like me. This just adds fuel to the fire. Yes, sir, Todoroki replied curtly, and Aizawa moved on. Now on to homeroom business. Sorry for the sudden announcement, but today you'll pick a class president. Most of the room was shocked at how normal it seemed. I guess they got caught up on the hero work from yesterday. A good number of students jumped at the opportunity, sometimes literally, but in the end, we went with Ida's sensible idea of having an election, even if he was far too enthusiastic with his want for the position. I voted for Momo myself. Ochako was great and all, but she wasn't exactly leader material. Ada was a good option too, but he tended to overthink things. The results of the election were mildly surprising though. As expected, most people either got 0 or 1 vote. Those that voted for themselves, but 2 managed to stand out. Midoriya Izuku, 6 votes. Yaoyorozu Momo, 2 votes. I got 6 votes. I expected a few, but not that many. I knew Ochako would vote for me, Mina and Kirishima too. But 3 other people, Well, with the votes cast I became class president with Momo being my vice president. She looked a little disappointed at first but fell into the position easily enough. After we went through our basic classes, hero training was only held every other day, so this time lunch came around a bit faster. We also got to meet our teachers for the 2 other mundane subjects, chemistry with Power Loader and history with Snipe. During lunch, I decided to find some answers. Okay, Spill, which of you voted for me? I already know Ochako, Mina, and Kirishima did. I asked in the middle of lunch, getting the others to flinch a bit. Guess I was right. I voted for who I felt would best fulfill the position. I'm sure that you will do a fine job, Midoriya-san. Ada reassured and admitted, still calling me by my last name since he was a bit more formal than the others. I also voted for Izuku. You just seemed nice, and I really didn't know the others very well. Sorry if you didn't want it. I shook my head at Pony. It's not that I didn't want it, I was just curious. Honestly, I thought Momo-san would have been best, so I voted for her. A surprised yelp came from the mentioned Ravenette as she looked away shyly. I guess I know who the third mystery voter was. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've had a question that's been bugging me ever since yesterday. Aw crap, I know that tone. Mina's not gonna let me get away scot-free with this one. How do you and All Might Sensei know each other? Yesterday he talked about you as if he knew you for a while. Think fast, Deku. Will you see VRE? Security level 3 has been breached. All students please evacuate in an orderly fashion. Safe. Or not very, I guess. What's security level 3? Ada seemed to have the same question and asked an upperclassman. He said that it meant the UA barrier had been crossed and that there were intruders in the school. I noticed how everyone was panicking and helped up the others at the table for a bit, pointing at the growing pile-up to express my point. Luckily, I was able to make my way towards a window to see that it was just a bunch of media vultures who had the balls to trespass on UA property. There was going to be hell to pay, to be sure, but for now, I had to find a way to calm everybody down. Momo-san, can you please make me a megaphone? It seems like some idiots decided to break down the UA barrier to get some media attention. If we don't stop this soon, somebody is going to get hurt. An affirmative came from Momo, who proceeded to unbutton her shirt. Much to the male student's embarrassment, I just looked away out of courtesy. A few seconds later, I had a megaphone in my hand and I wasn't afraid to use it. Everyone calm down and look out the window. It's just the press. Everything is fine. Keep evacuating, but do it calmly. You're UA students. Act like it. It was a little harsh, but it worked. The little blow to their pride forced them to calm down quicker and assess the situation. By the end of it, we all evacuated just fine until the teachers dealt with the press outside. After a quick head count, and to my slight embarrassment, a round of congratulations from my class for taking control of the situation, we ended up heading home early since the school needed to investigate what happened. Apparently, the UA barrier wall had a section that was completely disintegrated. In fact, the hole that was made was almost perfectly symmetrical. I doubt any ordinary reporter would have gone through such lengths to get into the building, especially when they knew that they would get kicked out immediately. I have a bad feeling about this. Now for today's basic hero lesson. This time All Might, myself, and one other will be supervising. We will be doing rescue training. That certainly got everyone excited. Our class in general had a good deal of rescue potential. We were no slouches when it came to raw power, but with members like Ochako, Shizaki, Momo, Tsuyu, or even Ryuko, we were the de facto rescue class. Hey, I'm not done yet. Aizawa glared at his rambunctious class. It's up to you whether or not you want to bring your costumes. The training spot is a bit remote, so we'll be going by bus. That is all. We all took our costumes with us, for style if nothing else. Then again, while my costume wasn't cutting edge or anything, it did have some decent utility to it. You know, the basic stuff. Rubbing alcohol, water bottles, rubber gloves, pepper spray, thermite powder. What? You don't carry thermite around in your pockets? I guess your life is easier than mine then. Midoriya-san, what order shall we sit in on the bus? If you need assistance in handling that, I have already prepared a comprehensive plan on how to most efficiently. I raise a hand and give him an awkward smile. Ada-kun, it's fine. It's not the traditional type of bus, so everyone can sit wherever. Thanks for the effort, though I know you meant well. Ada is diligent beyond belief, but sometimes he does a bit too much. We all stepped into the bus and went on our way. While I was there, I sat next to my partner for the battle trial, Tsuyu, and it seemed as if she's had enough of me dodging the question. Izuku-kun, I generally say what's on my mind. You've gotten lucky so far, but it will be a while before we reach our training spot. What is your relationship with All Might? I take a deep breath and get it over with. I've had a bit of time to think about it, and so my story wasn't completely on the fly. I met him about a year ago, right after the school year started. Do you guys remember the sludge villain incident that happened around the same time? Most nodded. All Might was involved, so it almost automatically went viral. Even more so since he was in his casual clothes. Kaken, the guy with the explosion quirk from Class B, was captured by that villain. We were childhood friends, you could say. So when I saw him like that, I couldn't just let it happen. So I ran in without thinking. Keep in mind this was before I unlocked my quirk. Hell, I was pretty scrawny back then too. It was completely reckless, but All Might was impressed with me. Aizawa heard that part and rolled his eyes. He told me that all great heroes share something in common. When they came under stress, their bodies moved on their own without thinking. That was the day when he started training me. Most people expected that, but their eyes still widened a bit. It's not every day when you that your classmate was personally trained by the #1 hero. He was actually the one to help me unlock my quirk. You see, it needed a certain prerequisite physical condition before it would activate. After about a month of training, I realized that I was gaining muscle and even learning things much faster than what was normal. That's when I got myself checked out and realized that I did, in fact, have a quirk. It was easily the happiest day of my life up to that point. I finished telling my story with a bright smile. I was truly blessed many times over. Somewhat literally, if Isobai was what he claimed to be. Wow, I knew it must have been something big, but I never thought you would have been his student. What are you supposed to be, his successor or something? I know Shota meant it as a joke, but I couldn't help but freeze up at that. Something that the more perceptive students picked up on. Thankfully, they kept that little tidbit to themselves. Sorry for basically forcing you to tell us about it, Izuku-kun. But you gotta admit, a secret like that would get anyone interested. See, you apologized for prying, but I told everyone that it was fine. It wouldn't have been hidden forever, and I didn't mind my classmates knowing. I also went on to talk about how I met Ochako and how she knew about All Might. Even Aizawa got a bit of a chuckle out of that. Leave it to All Might to hold a secret for a grand total of 1 month. Little did he know. We arrived shortly after I finished my story, heavily embarrassing Ochako with stories of how she started off her own training. I regret nothing. Realistically, I taught her more than All Might did, so as her sensei and boyfriend I had the right to tease her a bit. No, I'm not still mad about her giving up my secret over a gag, not at all. When we arrived, I could barely believe my eyes. The building was. No, massive wouldn't do it justice. It was effectively the size of a small town that was domed over. Each side of the building held self-contained areas that must have been used for survival training. There was a lake, a ruined city, and if my eyes weren't tricking me, a permanently on fire city. The funding for this school is ridiculous. Floods, landslides, conflagrations, any disaster or accident you can imagine. I built this facility myself. I call it the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or the USJ for short. A vaguely familiar voice introduced us to this place's name. The Space Hero, 13. He's my favorite, so that's where I heard it from. 13 was more or less to Ochako what All Might was to me. Now before we start, I have 1 or 2 points. Or 3. Or 4. I can't tell if they're doing this on purpose or not. Either way, it's pretty entertaining. As many of you may know, my quirk is called Black Hole. It sucks up anything that gets too close to it, crushing and turning it to dust. I mostly use it to clear up debris and such. However, it can easily be used to kill. Oh, so this was that talk. It was an important one, no doubt, and having a pro tell us it just made it all the more real. After his small speech, Aizawa decided to get on with things. However, he was cut off by a black mist that appeared right at the edge of his peripheral vision. Huddle up and don't move. These are real villains. My mind was working on overdrive at that point. I managed to identify the 3 biggest threats at least. Thank God for Analyze. That villain with the black mist. He's a warper, isn't he? And a powerful one. How else would he sneak in so many people into UA? Then there's that hand villain. He was the first to walk out of that mist, maybe the ringleader. And that one with his brain out. It's reminding me of All Might for some reason. Yeah, that definitely spooked me to hell before I saw that its end was just from a shock absorption quirk. Not ideal, but it can still be beaten. If it weren't for its ridiculous strength and speed, Todoroki might have been able to deal with that thing on his own. Momo asked why the intruder alarms weren't going off, while Todoroki deduced that if they planned this out even a little, they would have a quirk user that would silence the alarms. 13. Begin the evacuation. Todoroki is right, one of these villains must be behind the signals being jammed. I saw that Aizawa was prepared to throw himself at the enemy, but I immediately saw the flaw in that plan. Aizawa-sensei, wait. If you go in right now, it's all over. Most of those villains look like small fry, but that warper is a real issue. We can't afford to let him use his quirk freely. He looked back at me with surprise but nods. Good job, Midoriya. I was about to make a rookie mistake, thanks for that. He scolded himself before giving his new orders. I'll keep my eye on the mist villain. 13. You and the students make a break for the exits. We're going to need backup for this, and the students' safety is our top priority. While it was a good plan, it wasn't meant to be. Some of the mooks managed to take potshots at Aizawa, which forced him to look away from the mist villain. That small window was all he needed. You're a smart brat, but I won't allow you to leave. Greetings, we are the League of Villains. Forgive our audacity, but today we've come to this bastion of heroism to end the life of the symbol of peace. That was all I needed to hear. No need to hold back against this one either. I launched myself at full speed, while using one for all at its current maximum output without breaking my arms and legs, about 15%. It took me countless broken bones and ripped tendons to attain this level of control, and I was about to use it to its maximum. 15% Detroit Smash. Of course I aimed for the shiny metal bracer that the villain wore on his neck. It was a fairly obvious physical feature compared to the vague misty body below the neck he tried to dodge, but even with my regular speed I could give cars a run for their money. At 15% I bet I could probably match Ingenium's speed. I kept an eye on the villain's stats as I attacked, and I wasn't too surprised when I saw that I knocked out a good 80% of his health in one hit. This Kurogiri fellow wasn't very end heavy. Most of his points went into Cha and INT. Got him. Quick, make a run for it. I yelled, pointing at the exit. It took a few seconds for the others to pick their jaws off the floor, but they managed it in the end. Too bad I never checked to see if Kurogiri was truly unconscious. "Begone," was heard from under me. I tried to give him another quick jab, but my vision went dark before I was able. The next thing I knew, I was falling from the sky towards the rocky ground of what I could only assume was the mountainous zone. -30. I guess. Good thing I trained up my blunt force resistance. I took the time to look around, and my eye immediately caught two more students standing on a plateau above me. "Izuku-kun, are you okay? It looked like you took a bad fall," Momo asked from above me. I just gave a thumbs up before widening my eyes as a villain came up behind them. "Behind you." Not wasting any time, I jumped up towards them with one for all pumping through my limbs. I was fast enough to reach the villain before he could do anything and landed a straight punch to his stomach. I might have overdone it with the power a bit since his health went down to less than 10. Thanks for that, Izuku-kun. We didn't hear him sneak up on us. The second student trapped here. Pony thanked me for the assist. I couldn't really focus on that though. There were at least 30 of the villains I saw earlier all trying to box us in. Nearly half of the villains I saw at the plaza. I guess that Warper considers me a threat. He should have brought twice as many. Maybe then they'd actually stall me. These guys weren't going to be a problem. Their levels were in the high teens and their stats were abysmal. Momo and Pony could probably handle them all with a little difficulty, and someone like Todoroki could take them all out before they knew what hit them. Speaking of which, Momo-san tried to make some binoculars to scope out the other zones. I can handle these wannabe villains. I wasted no time and aimed to incapacitate, or more likely cripple. I would normally hold back a bit more, but I couldn't get the image of that Namu out of my head. If it was left alone to rampage, I mostly aimed for the legs, breaking kneecaps and crushing their feet, etc., anything to take them out of the fight. Those that had range quirks were targeted first, of course, and had their arms taken out of commission for good measure. The rest soon fell without any ranged backup to support them. It wasn't really a fight, more like a slaughter. I found some of the others. Izuku-ku. Momo turned around and noticed the carnage that happened right behind her. I found Asui-san, Rin-san, and Manga-san on the ship of the flood zone. I don't think the villains know our quirks, otherwise they would have never sent Asui-san and Manga-san there in particular. That thought process was proven to be correct when a shout of Pika Pika could be heard from the flood zone, completely electrifying the surrounding lake. Pretty sure any villain that was in that lake is dead now. I won't bring it up. Momo also mentioned how the landslide zone was completely frozen over. Todoroki-san doesn't disappoint. I doubt any of these guys, barring the ringleaders, could pose much of a threat to him. I think I also saw vines growing across the ruined city zone, so Shizaki-san is most likely there. The other two zones are covered, so I can't see anything with those. Ida-san, Ochako-san, and Mina-san are all at the entrance with 13 Sensei trying to fight off the warp villain, but they look like they're at a standstill. Aizawa is currently fighting some villains in the main plaza and doing well against them. This was going better than I expected. Time for a plan. I'll head for the ruins to provide support to Shizaki-san and anyone else there. Momo-san, Pony-san, I want both of you to try to head towards the exit as fast as possible. Try to attack the warper from long range if you can. I damaged him pretty badly, so one good hit should be able to take him out. With the quick strategy in effect, I bolted towards the ruined city at top speed. It was too bad that I had to alternate between limbs to use one for all. How did All Might do it? It was almost as if he never turned it off. I'm a fucking idiot. I channeled one for all through my whole body at 15% and just left it there. Not 2 seconds later, I got a notification. Skill learned. Full cowling LV1. This skill allows the user to channel one for all across their whole body continuously. Cost, 50 SPS. Yeesh. That stamina drain was intense, considering that there were no damage multipliers. Leveling this skill would most likely decrease its cost. Better use it to the fullest. Now's not the time to half-ass things. I followed the vines to their origin point and saw 3 familiar faces. Shizaki was there, of course, along with Yanagi and Kirishima. There were only 15 villains here. A good many of them were tied up by Shizaki's vines, while the rest were picked off by Yanaga's many rocks, or they were just straight up punched into unconsciousness by the human rock. Do I even need to be here? That caught the attention of hero and villain alike, and I definitely abused their temporary surprise. 4 seconds later, and we were walking out of the ruins with no visible wounds on us. Well, the others were walking out. I ran straight for the squall zone at full speed. It turns out that I wasn't needed there either. Komori had been teleported there, into a humid, constantly raining, enclosed location. Yeah, the would-be villains there didn't stand a chance. Shishida and Awase just stared at he with barely contained fear. Don't fuck with mushrooms. I decided to just head towards the conflagration zone immediately. I should really have more faith in my classmates. They're pretty badass. The students in the flaming building were rather unlucky. Tetsu was doing fine, his metal skin being naturally resistant to heat. Shota and Kodai, however, weren't so lucky. Shota was providing the occasional support with his quirk, while Kodai was barricading her squishier classmates away from the danger, but that left Tetsu essentially on his own. This time I didn't bother to raise my voice. The roaring flames were enough to cover my footsteps as I knocked out the villain wannabes before they even realized I was there. With their numbers thinning out so quickly, I was relatively sure that the only ones left were in the middle of the plaza. Speaking of which, I really should head out towards there. Aizawa was strong, but if that Namu decided to make its move, he wouldn't stand much of a chance. Good thing I decided to come in when I did too. Shigaraki was seconds away from getting into close combat with Aizawa, which would not end well. Aizawa-sensei, duck. He jolted at my voice but did as asked. Good thing too, since I was midway through a flying kick heading right for Shigaraki's head. I felt my foot connect, but not on my original target. I did 0 damage. Shock absorption is really something else. I don't have much time to contemplate as Namu tries to grab my arm. I wasn't about to let that happen, so I push away as fast as I could, taking Aizawa with me. Whatever that thing is, it felt like I was hitting vulcanized rubber. Physical attacks aren't going to work. I have no idea why his brain is exposed though. It seems a little too obvious for a weakness. Aizawa took a look at their new opponent and came up with the same conclusion I did. You there. You're that kid that attacked Kurogiri. Not bad. But do you really think that you can take on all of the villains I brought along? So he's a talker. Good, maybe I can fish for information. Other villains? You mean the ones that were sent to each zone, currently lying unconscious? His eyes widen at that, but he relaxes soon after, almost as if he'd expected that. Kids these days really are amazing. Those idiots were just a bunch of riff-raff we found on the street. But to take them all out so quickly. Namu, kill him. I could barely even see that thing move. It was easily comparable to All Might in speed, and it was only my months of training with the man that let me raise my guard in time. Minus 500 and still receive a quarter of my health and damage along with a broken arm. We may need a change of plans. Midoriya. Aizawa called after me in worry but couldn't do much as Shigaraki continued his assault. Don't worry about me, Aizawa-sensei. This thing is following that guy's orders. If you can take him out, this might be over. I'll just have to hold this guy off for now. My words were a lot more confident than I really was. I knew I stood no chance against this thing as I was now. Maybe if I had a different quirk. Or if I had some kind of I really am a huge idiot, aren't I? The villains were confused by my question as I pulled out a small bottle of rubbing alcohol and a cheap lighter. Now, a smart person would try to make some kind of ad hoc firebomb with these things. Instead, my genius intellect thought of something much more effective, but sadly more painful. Yeah, I drenched my gloves in the stuff and lit them on fire. Yes, I did get strange looks from both my teacher and the villains. And yes, I could hear Ochako face palming from the exit as I did it. Did I care? Not one bit, because now I had fire-enhanced fists. And all it cost me was 5 HPS. Round 2, 4th gear reject. Was that an old reference? Yes. Did I care? Nope. I was too busy psyching myself up for the hardest fight of my life. Thankfully, the fire worked. My punches finally started to do some damage, even more so when I just grabbed Namu instead of using quick jabs. Although I will say that I was genuinely spooked when I noticed all of the damage that I did regenerate within seconds. Is this what it's like to fight me? If so, then I feel bad for my future opponents, having all your hard work be reduced to 0 like that. It was aggravating, to say the least. I was so annoyed, in fact, that I barely noticed when a wave of ice rushed past me and froze half of Namu's body solid. Todoroki, that beautiful bastard. Wait, why does he look so pissed off? He was glaring at me, or more specifically my hands. Wonder WHO, right? Before you ask, no, I don't have a fire quirk. I just doused my gloves in alcohol and lit them on fire. I explained as if it wasn't completely insane. The look on his face was totally worth it though. Right, the nigh unstoppable monster was still behind me. And never mind, just freeze the guy completely quick. My tone makes him hesitate for a bit, which was Namu's cue to break out. It lost its left arm and leg in the process, but it still stood up as if nothing happened. I couldn't have that. It's now or never. This guy is too dangerous to hold back against. I charge a full-powered thrust right at its exposed brain, using my arm as a spear in hopes of cheating the shock absorption quirk. Kyoto Smash, -1000. My arm was broken, but thankfully my gamble paid off. Namu's brain was visibly deformed by the attack. A large gaping hole was formed in the left hemisphere while the rest appeared squished together. To my shock, the brain itself looked to be regenerating, albeit at a much slower pace. But for now, Namu was taken out of the fight. NOMU. Damn it. Kurogiri, get over here, we're leaving. Not on my watch. I charged at Shigaraki with everything I had, but my speed couldn't quite keep up with the warper. The two leaders of this raid had escaped and left Namu behind. Damn it. I can't remain idle anymore. I wasn't even a week into my life at UA and things have already gotten complicated. These guys came out of nowhere and taught me a valuable lesson. I was still weak, and if this Namu was as disposable as I think it was, then that meant I needed to get stronger. Fast. Midoriya. Todoroki, now isn't the time to stand around doing nothing. Gather the other students and have them meet up at the exit. We'll contact the authorities once we're outside. I know it's been a long day for everyone, but we'll have to stay put for now until the police get the full story. We both nodded, understanding that certain protocols were called for after an attack like this. Besides, I needed to make sure that the others were all right. Momo was supposed to attack Kurogiri from a range, but that obviously failed. Hopefully, nothing too bad happened. But before all of that, hey Todoroki-san, can you do me a solid and give me some ice for my burns? I was met with silence as he walked away, not once turning around in fear of contracting my crazy. 2 hours after the USJ incident, my boy, I can't begin to express how proud of you I am. But that doesn't change the fact that you're completely insane. Were All Might's first words when I explained why I had 4th degree burns. Ah, come on, All Might sensei. You know better than I do that sanity is overrated. We both gave our deepest belly laughs, which only served to freak out everyone around us, which included my whole class, a few policemen, the UA staff, and All Might's close friend Tsukachi. Excuse me, I hate to interrupt, but we need to ask you some questions about what happened. This is easily the largest breach of security in UAS history, so we'd like to know all we can. Tsukachi asked politely with Principal Nezu in tow. I nodded in acceptance, but asked to contact my mom first. She must be worried sick, since all she'd have heard was that there was an attack. My baby Izuku. What happened? I just heard over the news that UA was attacked. I tried calling, but nobody answered, and it just can't acate no more. Please still me verthingasak. So that's where I get that from. Mom, it's okay. Yes, there was an attack, but it wasn't too bad. The villains they brought along were really weak, so we took care of them before anyone even realized what was happening, so don't worry. She let out a sigh of relief, but still asked if I was completely okay and that I sounded in pain. Oh, about that. Well, I did get injured a bit, but it's not enough to worry about. You know I heal fast now and that it takes a lot to keep me down. I play off my burns until later. If I told her now, she'd probably have a heart attack on the spot. After a few more minutes of trying to calm her down and promising that I'll be home soon after answering a few questions, I ended the call and walked with Tsukachi and the others to a private room. The questioning was pretty basic. Apparently, Tsukachi's quirk made him a human lie detector, so the atmosphere was pretty relaxed considering that lying was impossible. I ended up having a pretty good relationship with the local police because of this. Apparently polite, logical heroes are a rarity. Considering that the heroes are essentially modern celebrities, I could definitely believe that. So this Namu creature had multiple quirks, along with enhanced strength and speed that were unrelated to its quirks. I nod, confirming it. I also mentioned how it appeared mindless on its own, only moving when its master, Shigaraki, ordered it, or if he was attacked. Kurogiri was considered the most dangerous due to his warp quirk. They were rare and therefore nearly unstoppable unless you had prior knowledge of what the users would do. In fact, Kurogiri had tried to pull in Namu a few hours after we left, but the police noticed the portal forming and managed to lead the monster away to a secret location, preventing the warper from retrieving his pet. You did great, Midoriya-san. Your class responded quickly and efficiently to the crisis at hand, and from what I've heard from you, lead the charge early on. I'll be watching the sports festival later. Hopefully, you'll surpass expectations there too. He complimented before walking out of the room, leaving me to my thoughts. The sports festival, huh? I forgot all about that. Normally I would be making preparations. Notebooks upon notebooks would be bought, pens would be as well, and color-coded accordingly. Now I'm actually going to participate in said event. It was pretty surreal. As such, I was barely paying attention when I walked out of the room. Deku-kun, are you okay? You looked really hurt when they took you in for questioning. Ochako surprised me by tackling me as soon as I exited the room. Thank goodness we were still in the police station and not outside with the raving media. That could have easily been taken the wrong way. I'm fine, Ochako-chan. Those wannabe villains didn't even leave a mark on me. Something I'm grateful to the gamer for. I couldn't scar. What about you guys? I wasn't able to help out with Kurogiri since I had to fight Nama with Aizawa-sensei. She looked confused at first until something clicked in her head. Hiro, oh, do you mean the mist villain with the warp quirk? Yeah, we were fine. He couldn't do anything to us without risking an attack, but at the same time if we attacked him then he would just teleport us away, so we were at a stalemate. I guess getting punched in the throat took away a bit of his battle prowess. Good. I took a bottle of water from my hero costume and started sipping. I've been talking for the last 3 hours after all. After a few sips I asked her something I've been thinking about for a while now. That's great to hear. Are the others here too, or did they leave? I was in there for quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if most of them left. Their parents must be worried sick over what happened. Actually, Momo-chan decided to stay along with Pony-san. They're waiting for us just outside. Honestly, with the way they were acting, I half expect them to declare their love for you. PFFDT. And there goes my water. Luckily, I aimed it at a nearby trash can so we wouldn't piss off the janitor. WHWHWA. I think Gamer's mind was malfunctioning. I couldn't control my reactions at all, and all I could do was look at Ochako's smirking face as I tried to get the water out of my lungs. You cough, you were joking, right? Cough, cough. Not at all. They kept telling us about how you single-handedly took out over 24 villains, and that the first thing you thought of was to help everyone else who got teleported. Normally I would be surprised, but this is you were talking about. Pony-san in particular was blushing heavily when she talked about you. Her grin just gets bigger and bigger the more she spoke. My own blush wasn't much better than the one she described on Pony. Why are you so calm about this? Plus, don't they know that we're all ready? Another smirk, but this one had a bit of sheepishness in it. We've actually never declared it publicly. Sure, we dropped more than enough hints, but no offense, but Momo-san and Pony-san are rather naive. Definitely inexperienced. Then again, so am I. We've only been together for a little under a year. So that's where the shyness came from, but that still has an answer. Besides, I knew from the beginning that other girls would be interested in you. You're just too amazing for anything else. I obviously don't blame those two for having feelings for you, and if I'm being completely honest with myself, I don't think I could keep up with you alone. I don't even. You know what, screw it, I'm just gonna say what I'm thinking. Ochako-chan, I want to make myself perfectly clear. You are more than enough for me. In fact, I don't even think I deserve you if I'm being honest. Not only have I kept secrets from you, even now, but you just accept it as if nothing's wrong. You are the kindest, most selfless girl I know, and I wouldn't trade you away for anything. I'll leave whatever comes next to you. Just know that I'll support your decision no matter what. Apparently, Ochako has had enough with my rambling and decided to shut me up herself. I can't say I'm complaining about her method of doing so. You know, you're not disproving my point, right? What guy would turn down a chance to have 3 girls at once? Don't worry too much about it. It's not like I don't find them attractive too. Oh. Apparently I didn't know as much about my girlfriend as I thought. I'm definitely not complaining about that. Izuku-kun, you're back. I thought I hear. Maybe we shouldn't have done this while we had people waiting for us in the next room. Embarrassed squeak. Oh boy, Momo has lost all motor functions. She can't even speak coherently from the surprise. Pony walked in soon after and she was doing no better. Hey Momo-chan. Pony-chan. Thanks for waiting for so long. Deku-kun and I have been talking for a bit, and I'll just say that you and Pony-chan have nothing to worry about. Now I gotta go. My parents said they wanted to visit me so they could make sure I was okay, so I have to catch the train later. And so she left, leaving behind 2 very confused girls and 1 very scared, yet aroused boyfriend. God, I love that woman. Seeing as Pony and Momo didn't have the benefits Gamer's mind, I recovered first and decided to move things along before they get even crazier. Thank you both for waiting for me. Sorry about being so abrupt, but I need to make a call to my mom. I did it earlier, but she's the type to worry anyway. So was I, at least before I had a literal god messing with my head to make me calmer. Izuku, are you okay? It's been hours since you last called. After a solid 5 minutes of trying to convince her that I was fine and that the questioning was over, along with introducing her to Pony and Momo, she finally calmed down for a bit. Well, hurry back. I made a big dinner since I'm sure you're hungry after such a busy day, although I think I might have overdone it. Would your friends like to come along? We might not be able to finish it all with just the 2 of us, and it's pretty late. That was a good idea. It's the least I could do to thank them for waiting on me for so long. What do you girls think? I understand if you want to go home instead. Your families must be worried after what happened. To my surprise, I got 2 no's from the girls. Apparently, they both lived alone. My parents are currently in Europe for a business trip, so they can't visit just yet. They've sent their well wishes though and are trying to wrap things up as quickly as possible. Even then, I live on my own in a nearby house that my family owns for schooling while my parents live in Osaka. Momo explained, casually verbally slapping me with a wad of cash. And my parents live back in America. I came to Japan alone since it was cheaper just to study at UA. Understandably, they can't visit me on such short notice either. So, in the end, they accepted the invitation and we had 2 guests over for dinner. The awkwardness of Achako's earlier comments forgotten for the time being. It wasn't going to last forever, of course, but for now we were happy to just enjoy a meal together while Mom got to know some more of my friends. It was nice. Maybe we should do something like this more often while inviting Achako along, of course. At the tail end of our dinner we talked about the upcoming sports festival and how we were planning on preparing for it. Like myself, they had completely forgotten about the festival amidst the chaos of the USJ. Still, they showed excitement for it at least. After they left, I decided to spend my last half hour before bed reviewing my character sheet to see what changed recently. It's been a good 2 weeks since the last time I did so, and with what happened recently, I needed an edge. Opening the game manual that I got at the beginning of my first Bazaar adventure, I noticed something interesting and very exciting. Some of the pages that were locked earlier were finally opened. Let's see. A gacha system, item upgrades, a crafting system, and year days great. Just great. I thought I avoided this problem until later, but fate seems to have other plans. Okay, I think I'll save that cursed mode for last. Let's deal with that gacha system first. If it's anything like the mobile game versions, I shouldn't expect much. And I was mostly correct. It was a fairly basic system. I pull once a day and then RNG takes care of the rest. They even had the chance for each rarity spawning. Each pull guarantees me a universal item. Afterward, there is an 80% chance of a common item dropping, then 60% for uncommon items, 40% for rare, 20% for epic, and 1% for legendary items. Might as well get today's roll over with. The universal item was a stack of 10,000 yen. Not complaining. The common item dropped and it was a military-grade Swiss Army knife. Nice. The uncommon item also dropped, leaving me with a set of knuckle dusters. Definitely useful. To my surprise, a rare item also dropped and it was some kind of weird transparent drink. I was about to analyze it, but to my further surprise, an epic item managed to drop as well before the gacha wheel went dark. Lucky me, I thought as I went back to analyze the rare drop first. X potion increases X gains by 2x for 1 hour after use. Well, I'm definitely saving this. I should get All Might to spar with me for a bit and drink this thing right before the fight. The free levels are already making me salivate. Okay, Deku, stop admiring your new favorite drink. Time for the epic level item. I was excited to say the least. If a rare item was already that good, just how nice will an epic one be? A quick analyze and it reveals its secrets to me. Skill book, Jeet Kune-do. Be like water, my friend teaches the user the basics of Jeet Kune-do, the legendary fighting style of the great quirkless fighter Bruce Lee. This style specializes in unpredictability. Jeet Kune-do is not one set style, instead it incorporates the elements of dozens of other styles along with the use of improvised moves for maximum effectiveness in combat. Perfect for an agile build, a fighting style, and a fairly recent one at that. That name, Bruce Lee, sounds familiar. I'll look him up later. Maybe I can find some study material for the skill. Before that, I should check out the rest of the new features. Next up is the item upgrade feature. Have you ever had a problem that you just couldn't solve on your own? Have you tried throwing money at it until it fixes itself? Well, now you can. This feature allows you to literally throw money at an object until it prestiges and becomes more powerful. Ever wanted to beat a Namu into unconsciousness with a plunger? Now you can, provided you throw a few million in our direction. It was pretty self-explanatory. I could use yen or any other currency to upgrade my gear, making it stronger, more durable, lighter, etc. It was pretty simple, so I moved on to the crafting system. Remember how you tend to pick up hundreds of pieces of trash and just chuck them into your inventory? Now they have a purpose. Build things according to your INT-wise and skill level. INT provides you with blueprints for possible weapons. Wise increases the stats of any weapon thought up by the user, and the crafting skill is the player's actual ability to create things with their bare hands. Skill acquired. Crafting LV1 allows the player to craft different items using the crafting system. +1 AGI and +1 INT per level. Lifts the INT level cap. Finally, that level cap on my INT was getting really annoying. But this crafting system, it's not bad, but I'm gonna need to power level this thing for it to be useful. Maybe the support course students could help me with this after the festival. Regardless, it's time for me to look into what I know will be the biggest headache amongst the gamer's features. Dating simulator mode. Sigh, let's get this over with. This mode acts as a reputation menu. I just called it a dating simulator to mess with you. All of your relationships, positive and negative, can be found here. Particularly strong positive relationships can bring along specific benefits, while negative relationships bring on negative repercussions. In addition, groups of people will be labeled as one. However, individual members may be rated separately under certain circumstances. Current relationships. Heroes. Yagi Toshinori, 851,000, plus 50% reputation boosts with the general populace, plus 50% X boost when training together for both parties. Recovery Girl, 551,000, plus 50% reputation boosts with the elderly, plus 50% healing for both parties. UA General Staff, 401,000 plus 25% reputation boost with heroes, plus 25% X when inside UA property. Midnight, 601,000 plus 50% reputation boost with sadists, plus 50% X gain towards dull pain skill. Nervous Sweating, Iraraka Achako, 1,000 over 1,000 plus 100% reputation boost with the poor, plus 100% X boost for both parties when fighting together. Yaorazu Momo, 601,000 plus 50% reputation boost with the rich, plus 50% X boost for both parties when fighting together. Tsunotori Pony, 651,000 plus 50% reputation boost with foreigners, plus 50% X boost for both parties when fighting together. Ashido Mina, 351,000 plus 25% reputation boost with mutation types, plus 25% X boost for both parties when fighting together. Kirishima Ijiro, 351,000 plus 25% reputation boost with transformation types, plus 25% X boost for both parties when fighting together. Todoroki Shoto, 51,000 no boosts. Any score between -100 to 100 is considered neutral. Class 1A, 501,000 plus 50% reputation boost with UA Hero students, plus 50% X boost when training with Class 1A. Excited Sweating, Bakugou Katsuki, -50 divided by 1,000. Class 1B, -100 divided by 1,000. UA Support Class, 101,000. Pro Hero Community, 201,000 plus 25% reputation boost with Pro Heroes. Neutrals, General Population, 151,000 plus 25% reputation boost with the general public. UA Regular Students, 201,000 plus 25% reputation boost with all UA students. Villains, Criminals, -400 divided by 1,000 to 25% reputation with Criminals, -25% X boost when fighting alongside Criminals. League of Villains, -1,000 divided by 1,000 to 100% reputation with the League of Villains. You will be targeted personally. Max reputations cannot be raised or lowered barring extenuating circumstances. Sounds about right. Although I gotta say I'm surprised with how respected I am with people I haven't even met. I guess being a UA Hero student means something to most people. Honestly, I was just happy that this wasn't some kind of harem builder or something equally ridiculous. This was actually incredibly useful. Crap, midnight already. Oh well, good thing that school is off tomorrow. I'll look up that Bruce Lee man later to see what I can learn from old footage of him. Then maybe I can. I went on to plan further while trying my absolute best not to think about what happened earlier today. Next day, waking up to a knock on my door was weird for me. Mom usually wakes up after I do and we rarely got visitors, so this could only be a few people. Then again, I might have just slept in. I hear Mom's voice along with a few other familiar ones. I stood up, got dressed and entered the living room to see 6 familiar faces. Achako, Kirishima, Momo, Pony, Mina, and Ida were all sitting there, presumably waiting for me. Good morning, Deku-kun. Sorry for invading your house so early, but we wanted to hang out with you for the day. Also, All Might Sensei wants to talk to you later tonight. Oops, I guess that's what happens when I oversleep. My phone must be packed full of messages by now. I quickly pull it out and take about 10 seconds to read and reply to the 30+ messages that I received, much to the surprise of my guests. Intense studying and ungodly INTFTW. I thought in amusement as I returned my attention to the guests. Holy crap, what are you, a living computer? How did you type that fast? Mina exclaimed. Way too loud for this early. Oh wait, it's noon. How long was I asleep? How do you think I keep up with my own speed? My eyes and fingers are just as fast as the rest of my body. Okay, that sounded way better in my head. Good thing they were all too distracted to call me out on it. Anyway, we wanted to train together for the sports festival, so we came over to invite our class rep. What do you say, Midoriya-san? Ada asked on behalf of the group. I thought about it for a bit and ended up accepting. I needed to train anyway, and with my new X boosts, group training just became much more appealing to me. Sure, school's out today though, so we can't exactly go there. Follow me. We can use our old training spot at Dagaba Beach. They looked at each other in confusion before accepting. That's right, I never told them about Dagaba, did I? We jogged our way there to warm up while those who haven't been there before asked Ochako and I questions about Dagaba Beach. This was the place where Ochako-chan and I trained under All Might Sensei. Sigh, it really takes me back. That got them excited. I guess they wanted to see the place where I got so strong so fast. We picked up the pace and managed to reach the beach in only half an hour, although some of us were a bit out of breath from the run. Phew, good run. So this is the place. It looks amazing. The sand is almost pure white, Kirishima exclaimed as he looked over our training area. The girls were also enjoying the view, eyes sparkling from the crystal clear water. That's enough sightseeing for now. I know it's beautiful, but we're burning daylight right now. I call out, catching everyone's attention. I think we're all fairly warmed up after our short run, so let's get down to business. They turn to me and get ready. I nod and begin explaining my game plan. I've watched the sports festival for the last several years, and from what I've seen, they always start the games with a contest of speed to thin out the herd. So I think it would be best for us to work on some agility training along with our dodging abilities, since messing with other contestants is usually allowed. The amount of students that were hit with projectiles in the preliminary rounds were insane. Understood. Do you have a specific method that we'll be using, Midoriya-san? You seem to be experienced with speed training since you're already faster than me. I nod and asked Momo if she could make us some balls. Volleyballs specifically, since they were fairly small, light, and for the obvious reason of us being on a beach. We'll use these volleyballs provided by Momo-chan for our training. Each of us will take turns as the runner while the other 6 people focus on hitting the runner with the volleyballs. Each of us will take 3 turns as runners in total. Runners receive points for each time they get hit. The runner with the lowest point total is the winner. I came up with our training regimen on the fly. The fact that it was a fun game was coincidence, I swear. Regardless, everyone took it rather well. We ended up having a good deal of fun as well as some serious training, considering that we allowed quirks to be used for throwing and dodging. Especially when you add mechanical ball throwers and Delaware smash balls into the equation, courtesy of Momo and myself. Kirishima was much more used to taking hits rather than dodging, so this was a good change of pace for him. Heida's pure speed wasn't very useful for quick turns, so he had to adjust to the training quickly if he wanted to do well. Mina was well-rounded. He throws had some extra range to them since she covered the balls in a sticky acid, while her natural athleticism and acid skating made her quite mobile. Pony was a surprisingly strong player, with her 4-legged mode providing extra speed and her horns giving her throws some extra power and control. Momo, as mentioned earlier, just made a mechanical ball thrower and aimed at herself, while her natural athleticism helped her dodge pretty well. Achako was a bit of a curvy ball. Making the balls weightless gave her thrown the 3rd highest speed out of everyone, and having the ability to float for short periods of time gave her more options when dodging. Her training with me earlier in the year certainly helped her reaction times as well. I dominated this game. And no, I wasn't just bragging. The only people who even came close to hitting me were Achako and Pony. Achako because she knew me for long enough to know my evasion tricks, and Pony because she could freely maneuver her balls much more than the others. Momo's machines were fast for most people, but they were nothing compared to All Might's fists or even Namo. The results were as follows: Kirishima Ijiro, 18, Ida Tenya, 14, Tsunotori Pony, 12, Yaoyorozu Momo, 9, Ashido Mina, 8, Uraraka Achako, 4, Midoriya Izuku, 0. Good work, everyone. That was pretty fun. A few more days of this and we should get the hang of it. We should also do some occasional light sparring, since the final event is always some kind of one-on-one contest. Getting agreements from everyone, I had to excuse myself, saying that Class 1B's representative asked me to meet with her. Apparently they wanted to speak to me about what happened at the USJ, as well as something about interclass relationships. Whatever that's about. Maybe it has something to do with the -100 reputation I have with Class B. At first I thought it was just a bleed-over effect from Kaken, but maybe it goes deeper than that. Either way, as the Class 1A rep, I should probably nip this issue in the bud before it ends badly for my class as a whole. I found myself walking through the halls of an empty UA while asking myself why Class B's rep would want to see me in particular. Sigh, so much for a day off. Oh well, I guess this is what I signed up for when I became class rep. Wait, I didn't sign up for anything. I exclaimed to no one. Sign up for what? The voice came from up ahead. A few seconds later, and an orange-haired, green-eyed girl appeared. Hey, Midoriya-san, right? My name is Kendo Itsuka, the Class B rep. Thanks for meeting me on such short notice and on our day off too. She bowed an apology after introducing herself. It's fine. I gotta say, I'm curious about why you called me here. I asked, hoping for a quick answer. I really wanted to watch those Bruce Lee videos later. I did a little research on the train ride here, and I have to say I was more than impressed by the ancient fighter. Well, it's mostly just to apologize in advance for some of the guys in our class. They've been pretty jealous lately and have been ranting about Class 1A being glory hogs. Most of them are good people, but that Monoma guy just loves to rile them up. A new voice came from the same direction. This time it was a greenette with matching green eyes and a cheeky grin. Yo, I'm Takage Setsuna, Vice Rep of Class B. Nice to see you again, Superboy. Superboy, I can feel the copyright strikes coming already. With a quick analyze I found out a little more about them and I could tell that Takage had a pretty casual personality. Wait, was I supposed to bring our vice rep too? Sorry, I should have asked her earlier. I apologized, not thinking about bringing Momo along. They just waved it off saying that Takage came along on a whim. And what was that about meeting your vice rep earlier? Isn't she the one who got first place in the apprehension test? Nice catch, Takage exclaimed with a thumbs up. If I hadn't already analyzed her I would have probably fallen for that. Nice try Takage-san, but I'm no stranger to teasing. A few members of my class wanted to train together so we headed out earlier. Gotta keep our skills sharp for the festival after all. While Takage was a bit put out by the lack of reaction, they did seem interested in the training. Say, this is probably a long shot, but do you think we could join you? Most of our class lives far away, and those that don't aren't the most sociable, Kendo said with a resigned voice. Probably talking about Kaken. Definitely Kaken. I understand, I say solemnly, surprising them a bit. I don't have a problem with you joining us. Here's my number. I'll create a group chat for everyone to communicate with each other. We'll have to make up a schedule on our own since we only have today off. Organizing so many people was going to be tough, but it was for the best. We're probably going to be given some free periods from now on to prepare so we can start there and train together after school whenever we can. I finished looking up to their smiling faces. Thanks Midori-kun, we really appreciate it, Takage exclaimed before giving me an abrupt hug. That doesn't mean we're gonna go easy on you during the festival though. After I recover from the sudden hug I smile and said my piece as I walked out. I wouldn't have it any other way. See you two later, Takage-san, Kendo-san. By the time that I left campus grounds it was already noon. At least I don't have to eat as much anymore. The gamer did give me status debuffs for going hungry, but they weren't too bad. So long as I don't go crazy and skip eating for a week or something, I would be able to function just fine. I sent a quick message to All Might, trying to confirm the time when we should meet and where. He shot back a few minutes later saying that 8 o'clock at the beach should be fine. That gave me 7 minutes 8 hours to do what I needed to do before I had to run off. Let's start with those Bruce Lee videos. With any luck I might gain some levels off of them at least. Not like I could train with the style on the ride back home. I had to wait an hour before I could do that at home. 1 hour later. As it turned out, Jeet Kune Do wasn't actually a style per se. Like the gamer mentioned, it was more of an amalgamation of different styles, disciplines, and philosophies all worked into one fluid, often unique style for each practitioner. Essentially it boils down to take what works, leave the rest behind. Since different things appeal to different people, it made no sense to force your body to do something it wasn't meant for. And yes, I did get a few levels for it. The game was quick to tell me that watching was only going to do so much. Martial arts were a physical and mental discipline, so I would have to use it in combat eventually. I also spent a good few hours at home trying to memorize the basics using intense studying, but that could only get me so far. Jeet Kune Do LV5 increases damage and evasion rate by 5% when used, plus 1 end, plus 1 STR, plus 2 AGI per level. This had the potential to be insane if the evasion rate scaled linearly. I would essentially have auto-dodge on so long as I used the style. Gotta love the high INT. I didn't even have to study anymore to keep up, so I could spend most of my time training. Anyway, I still have a few hours before I have to meet All Might, so I should pull the gacha for today. Hopefully, it will be as good as the first time. Slinky acquired. What? Did you expect cool shit every time? Huh? Well, okay then. No need to be so rude, game. I muttered out loud. The game was getting sassier, it seems. It reminds me that my life has essentially become one big reality TV show for a bunch of gods. After a short existential crisis and a dive through the internet to familiarize myself with various pantheons, just in case the time flew by rather quickly and I had to go for my meeting with All Might. Although with my current running speed I didn't really have to worry about time. What used to take me 30 minutes now barely lasted 30 seconds with my speed boost. Young Midoriya, you're early. Guess I made the right call being the same. All Might greeted me in his shrunken form, looking out to the sunset with a relaxed posture. I joined him soon after and he began to tell me about why he called me here. I wanted to wait until you were a bit older, but you've come a long way since we first met. And with what happened yesterday, it's time that you learned the history behind One for All. A tale of two brothers, All for One, the first supervillain, and One for All's first wielder, our predecessor. And if Nama was anything to go by, All for One was still alive and coming after me next. I guess this explains the minus 1000 rep with the League of Villains. I wasn't too surprised by the fact that All Might, and I by proxy, had an arch nemesis. It was pretty standard for heroes in general. What did surprise me was what All Might asked of me afterward. The sports festival is coming up and I think this is the perfect opportunity for you to announce your arrival to the world. My time as the symbol of peace is drawing to a close and the people need to know that the next generation has come to replace me. He transforms into his muscle form and extends his hand to me. Young Midoriya, I want you to do your best in the coming games, and if you win it all, I'll take that as a sign that you're ready for the next step. Win the tournament and I'll publicly declare you as my successor when I hand out the medals. It was times like these where I was most grateful for Gamer's mind. The old me would have burst out crying like this, but now all I could do was shake his hand with determination on my face. I wouldn't let him down. Training montage begin. Keep it up, everyone. You can all rest when you land a hit, I yelled as I dodged the various attacks sent at me by my training partners. They were trying their best, but with a 15% full cowling, none of them could really keep up. Or at least that's what I thought, until Momo pulled out a net gun from her stomach. Oh, that's just the net was so wide that I had to slice at it with a quick chop to avoid the attack. Okay, I'll count that as a hit. Good work, Momo-chan. But don't count on nets working on some people. A good deal of our classmates could just destroy it before it reaches them or maneuver around the field in 3 dimensions. Bakugou, Todoroki, and Kiwaro in particular wouldn't be slowed down by it at all. Huff huff. How the hell are you so fast? I thought your quirk was adaptation. What did you adapt to that made you that good? Takage ranted at me while trying to catch her breath. Kendo was trying to hide it to a degree, but I can see her glaring at me too. When your first ever training partner is All Might, you tend to take leaps and bounds in your stats. Even more so since All Might doesn't know the meaning of the word hold back. I still had phantom pains from those times I was embedded into the beach wall several dozen times. Yeah, you trained with All Might. The girls of Class B exclaimed, causing me to facepalm. I forgot that only Class 1A knew about that little fact. Oh well, it was becoming public soon enough, so it wasn't a problem. Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot that I never told you guys. It's not really a big secret or anything. In fact, I was asked to reveal it to the public during the festival. So don't worry about keeping it a secret or anything. I apologized and assured them that I didn't mean to keep it from them. The other members of WANA started to open up more with the Class B reps after they noticed how we trained with each other. In fact, a good deal of them opted to join us for training, along with a few more 1B members who swallowed their pride or just didn't care about the class rivalry. Komori, Tsuyu, Gyro, and Kiwaro were the ones to join shortly after we started. They integrated fairly well, but like the others, they weren't too used to intense training over such long periods of time. It was nice to train people again. Ochako was fun to teach back when we met, and with these guys already having a strong base to work with, it just made it even more fun to build them up. After class ended, we trained for a good 4 hours in one of the training grounds. Or when we couldn't get permission, we went to the beach instead. Afterward, I pulled from the gacha system when I finally got home. So far, this is what I got. Universal items, 10,000 yen x5, butcher knife, 5,000 yen worth of silver x4, green trench coat, green swimming goggles, 13 wristwatch. Common items, Rubik's Cube, small gold plate worth 50,000 yen x2, emerald, clear diamond, smartphone, red sneakers, boxing gloves, English-Spanish dictionary, solar battery charger, bicycle. Uncommon items, Encyclopedia Britannica 11th edition, Petty Soul Gem, Katana, Grapple Gun, Young Age Limited Edition All Might Card, Platinum Ring, Smithing Skill Book, Cooking Skill Book, Evil Overlord's Guide to World Domination. Rare items, Minor Mana Potion, Common Soul Gem x2, Wrist and Ankle Weights, Resistant Seals, Paralytic Poison, Chemistry Skill Book. Epic items, Arrow Protection Amulet, Azoth Sword. Legendary items, none. The universal items were mostly very simple. A lot of money, some precious metal, a gift for Ochako, etc. The common items were a bit more varied. A puzzle game for training which I kept, some more precious metals, and gemstones. In addition, some useful clothing and gadgets even, and another gift for Ochako. Uncommon items were a little weirder. That encyclopedia was apparently very rare and Momo took an interest in it. I decided to give it to her since I wasn't going to need it, and she responded. Different from what I expected. I nearly got kissed straight in the mouth. It was only Ochako's timely interruption that stopped it, ending in her having a shit-eating grin as Momo and I blushed like crazy. Anyway, back to the uncommon items. The katana, grapple gun, platinum ring, and collectible card were all mundane. I decided to keep the ring and the grapple gun while scrapping the katana since I can't exactly use a weapon just yet. The card was given as a sort of peace offering to Kaken since I didn't want us to be at each other's throats all year. To my surprise, this actually raised my reputation with him by 200 points. I was now firmly on the positive end of neutral with him, which was something, I guess. The skill books were used immediately, both of which raised my crafting level. And I decided to keep the Evil Overlord's Guide as a joke and because it was actually a fun read. Finally, there was the Soul Gem. It was weird to say the least. Analyze told me that it had some kind of energy source in it, but I didn't have a way of utilizing it just yet. I decided to skip it for now and chucked it into my inventory. The rare items were very useful. First off was the skill book. It added an extra level to crafting, so that's nice. Next, the poison. I guess it could be useful for later. Maybe I can even develop a poison resistance skill later, but for now let's move on. 2 more soul gems that we'll get to later, a pair of weights, and with these resistance seals I can do some serious training from now on. It could even help me with keeping full cowling active permanently just like All Might. Finally, there was the Mana Potion. Mana Potion, this drink is rather special. Upon drinking it, the user grows a new pseudo-organ over the course of a month known as magic circuits. These will allow the user to manipulate mana, a limited resource, in order to cast magecraft. Magic. Actual magic. Well shit, I won't complain about it. Down the hatch. I drank the potion right after reading it. If I know my gaming gimmicks, then the soul gems were most likely filled with mana, so I looked into those after the circuits developed. Finally, the epic level items. These were definitely something special. First off was the amulet. Amulet of Arrow Protection. This item protects the wearer from any and all projectile attacks up to 200 uses. Strong attacks may take out multiple uses at once. Definitely a powerful item. I probably won't be able to use it in public since this stuff is obviously magic, so I'll save it for when the real danger begins to show up. Next up was the Azoth Sword. Azoth Sword amplifies and focuses magecraft, not meant to be used as a weapon. It magnifies magecraft by a factor of 3 when used. Maximum mana capacity, 10,000 units. Another magic item. This time it was an amplifier, and 10k units. Was that good? I had no idea, and I probably wouldn't until the potion kicked in. Until then, all I could do was train harder and grind the crafting skill a bit. At the low level that it was, the most I could make was just some basic metal tools, a few cooking recipes, and some basic chemical compositions that had mild effects at best. On a brighter note, I did manage to raise my reputation with the support course students significantly, since I spent plenty of time with them while borrowing some of their equipment for my extracurricular activities. The weeks of training paid off in the end, with me gaining a decent 20-30 points per stat, along with a host of different skills that would no doubt prove useful during the festival. Of course, I couldn't forget to mention the little scuffle that happened a few days after the festival was announced. "Hey, what's going on?" Ochako exclaimed as she was trying to get out of class, only to be blocked by an ocean of students. "They came here to scope out the competition, obviously." Round face. A familiar voice came from the crowd. Bakugou made his way through the sea of students. Nobody was dumb enough to stand in his way. He grew a pretty strong reputation even in such a short time. "So Deku, you've been training for the festival, right? You better be ready by the time it comes by, 'cause I'm not holding back." "Got it." Sigh. Of course, he would single me out. At least he wasn't actively antagonizing me anymore. Of course, Kaken, I'd expect nothing less. But don't just say it to me. My class is more than capable of holding their own against you too, I replied with a smile, getting a scoff from my recent rival. Apparently our conversation was grabbing attention as a new voice joined in. "Quite competitive, aren't you two? Don't count us from the general course out either. Depending on the results, one of us might be transferred over to the hero course, which means that the opposite is most likely true. Consider this a declaration of war. I'm coming for that spot in the hero course," he declared before walking away. Quite daring. Maybe he'll actually make good on that threat. Who knows? Still though, a declaration of war on the first week of school. I guess this is what it means to be among the best of the best. Whatever, that just gets me excited for what's to come. Just like All Might, I'll meet any challenge head on with a smile on my face. Day of the festival. 1A locker room. We were all getting ready for our big entrance as the first class of the first year event. Most of us were pretty nervous, others were excited. I had an eyebrow twitching from my latest gacha roll that I did out of boredom. A fire extinguisher and a box of condoms. I feel like the gamer is trying to tell me something. Sadly, I had no time to contemplate the significance of my new items as Todoroki approached me and grabbed my attention. "Midoriya-san, objectively speaking, we're about equal in terms of power. Rivals. All Might seems to have an eye on you for whatever reason, but that doesn't matter much right now. Just know that I will beat you." Wow, that's the nicest thing he's said to me since we met. "You're on, Todoroki-kun. But don't just say that to me. Our class is full of very capable people after all. If you spend all of your time worrying about one person, they might just leave you in the dust." I accepted his challenge while acknowledging the others. Todoroki just nodded and walked away. As we were called out, I waved a bit at the crowd, playing the audience like I saw the former competitors do every year. Apparently it captured their attention more if you made yourself out to be enthusiastic and confident. The rest of my class followed suit, barring the more introverted members. "Now for the athlete's oath," Midnight exclaimed. Apparently, she was our rep this year, much to the joy of the majority of the male population watching. "Pipe down. Your student representative, Midoriya Izuku from Class 1A. I was called up, and I had absolutely nothing prepared for this. "Hi Cha Stat, don't fail me now. Why is he the student rep?" A kid from the general course asked, which Kirishima replied by saying that I was the top scorer in the entrance exams. "The hero course exam, you mean?" Another girl from the general course said in annoyance, only for Ochako to correct her. Deku-kun actually scored the top scores on both exams. Or, well, he tied for first anyway along with Momo-chan here. She pointed at Momo, who wasn't too happy with the sudden attention, although Achako's words seemed to have appeased the general course students a bit, including the girl who apologized for assuming. I cleared my throat a bit before beginning my impromptu oath. I just want to say that I am proud to be a member of this legendary institution and to remind everyone that we were all accepted here for a reason. Give this festival your all, and I will do the same. That is all anyone can ask of you. I ended the short speech with a raised arm similar to what All Might did. The illusion didn't go unnoticed, for now the crowd gave me a polite clap with a decent amount of cheers. I suppose to anyone else what I just did would seem like a generic call to do our best and in homage to All Might. I kinda want to see their reactions to me when they start figuring it out. At least the other classes seemed to really like it. Most of them were giving me approving looks and Class B was eyeing me up for later. Most of them already know about my broken quirk as they described it, so they know I'm a threat. That was a wonderful oath. Now, without delay, let's get on with the first round. The screen used to decide the first event began spinning before landing on a very common event. It shall be the obstacle course race. Everyone get into your positions and wait out the timer. We did so. I tried my best to stay at the back of the group for now. I could already tell what the first obstacle was. Begin. Taking a sprinting start, I jumped up to the right wall and activated acrobatics along with full cowling. At the cost of my speed, I could run on walls with little difficulty. Todoroki took the debuff route, trying to freeze the competition, but that only worked so well. Most of our class and a good chunk of Class B avoided it completely. With my combined speed and mobility, making it to the front of the group was no obstacle. The moment I hit the ground, my speed more than doubled, no longer being held back by the acrobatics debuff. With that, I was the first to see the next obstacle, the Robo Inferno. Looks like Class 1A's reps got some moves. Hey Eraser, got anything to say about your top student? Present, Mike announced. Apparently Aizawa had the bad luck of being drafted to do live commentary. Poor guy. Not much more than what you already said. He's not just my top student either. Ever since he got here, he's excelled in almost every area. That's not to say that the other students are doing poorly, of course. Todoroki was firmly in second place, picking up his pace in the hopes of catching up to me, but yeah, super speed, so that's not gonna happen. In third place was Kaken, but he's a bit of a slow starter, so I don't have to worry about him until he starts sweating more. The rest of the two classes were pretty neck and neck. Even Ada, since his speed didn't help much in the crowded entrance. Thanks for that, Aizawa-sensei. It really means a lot coming from you, I thought before effortlessly passing through the robot field. The 1- 3-pointers were basically walking piles of tin foil. Too slow and too weak to catch or even damage me at this point. The 0-pointers weren't much better. They were even slower than the others and way too bulky. I slipped right past them without even breaking a sweat. And there goes the first obstacle. Midoriya just breezed through it like it was nothing. That speed of his is really something else. But can it help him with the next obstacle? The fall. It's a practical name, sure, but come on guys. Again, this obstacle didn't amount to much. Back at the start of the year, definitely. But now that I had full cowling, I could easily make these jumps between platforms. All in all, the obstacle only held me back for a few seconds. Todoroki had managed to slip past the 0-pointers using a giant ice wall, but it seems like he made it angled downwards on purpose so the robots would fall on the other students. Not cool. Most of those guys don't have endurance or speed type quirks. That was incredibly reckless. I had no time to think about that though as the next obstacle came up. And once again, Midoriya has easily passed through the second obstacle. It's almost as if he were built for speed. But can he handle the next one? Speed won't do you much good against a minefield. Landmines. The crowd reacted as you would expect when you send kids out into a literal minefield. Landmines. I could hear Momo yell indignantly from way back the second obstacle, along with something about a budget. As for me, holy shit, they planted landmines. I muttered to myself in mild disbelief. Even UAS gotta have a limit, right? I then heard Aizawa's commentary about how they weren't really all that dangerous and were meant to act more like flashbangs. So they're meant to distract, impair, and overall slow down a large group of people. Good thing literally none of those things work on me. That's the thing about some of my skill descriptions. They were just vague enough to be some real bullshit in a live test. Gamer's mind was the biggest culprit. With it, I had essentially nothing to worry about when it comes to things like shock, panic, etc. Even without my intense durability, I could just power through the pain and disorientation of the mines like a champ. Speaking of durability, the mines were meant to only sting when stepped on by a basic human. No endurance quirk or anything. I was far from basic at this point. My durability mixed with speed made the mines a complete joke that I ran through in under a second. And we have our winner, folks. The seemingly unstoppable Izuku. Midoriya has claimed first place by a wide margin. How the other students are still in the second obstacle as we speak. I could have gone without the showboating, but I guess I did need to make a big impression. I raised another fist to the sky to keep up the All Might image before I looked back at the rest of the students. Todoroki was still in second place, but that didn't last for very long as Bakugou exploded right past him before engaging Todoroki in a light skirmish to throw him off into the mine. The others were using the final obstacle to catch up, and I could see the girls stop for a moment. I wonder what their Thio know. Ochako don't. You never tested it on Explo. My thought process was cut short. A very large, very pink explosion was heard from the entrance to the third obstacle. Ochako had asked Momo to make them a strong metal platform as she started to collect mines from the ground without blowing them up using her quirk. I think I corrupted her. She would have never thought of such an insane plan a few weeks ago. At least it seemed to work. With her quirk she made Momo and the metal plate weightless, meaning that she needed fewer mines to finish the job compared to someone else. She then proceeded to belly flop into the mines, which caused the previously mentioned explosion. I don't believe it, ladies and gentlemen. 2 of Class 1A's members have just rocketed past the current runner-ups without anyone noticing. Seriously, Eraser, Midoriya was crazy enough. What do you teach these kids? Mike announced in complete hysterics while Aizawa responded with his usual flat tone. Not much, to be honest. School's only been going on for less than a month, remember. I certainly didn't teach them that kind of suicidal maneuver. If I had to guess, Midoriya probably gave them that idea. He said, much to the surprise of the crowd and present Mike. Midoriya is known to socialize with them along with 4 others for the most part, and he's proven to be either completely fearless, insane, or both. Probably both. It's not much of a surprise that his closest friends took his lead. Our homeroom teacher explained further, kinda tanking my reputation with the insane comment. Well, thanks for the vote of confidence, Aizawa-sensei. I have enough problems trying to prove my sanity as it is. The second and third place positions were given to Momo and Ochako respectively. Ochako had made progress in her AGI training, but Momo simply has the advantage when it comes to speed because of her long legs and athletic training from her childhood. Todoroki and Bakugou weren't far behind though. They took 4th and 5th place respectively. Bakugou in particular was not doing very well with getting 5th place again, and he was dealing with it in his own quirky way. Very quirky. I could tell that Todoroki was in genuine shock with his 4th place spot. I took that moment to walk up to him. I needed to prove a point from before. Todoroki-san, this is what I meant. Don't underestimate the rest of your class or any of the other classes for that matter. You never know when they'll bust out some hidden tricks and leave you in the dust. He glared at me for a bit but ended up accepting it. He couldn't deny that I had a point. And you too. I yelled out to the girls before bringing them into a group hug. That was incredibly dangerous and reckless, and I've never been more proud of both of you. I hugged them tighter, both worried and happy for what they pulled back there. Gee, thanks, Deku-kun. I came up with it after I remembered how you used your Delaware smash to hover back in training. But really, Momo-chan made it all possible. Thanks for trusting me back there. Momo blushed at the praise and returned fire. Of course I trust you, Ochako-chan. But that plan you came up with was genius. I didn't even think about using the mines to our advantage like that. My mind just firmly labeled them as an obstacle instead of a resource. She admitted before realizing just how we all looked after our group hug and blushed profusely. Luckily, the other contestants chose that time to show up, the first of which was the resident cyborg. 6th place. How disgraceful for a speed type. Midoriya-kun, you did an amazing job. Yaoyorozu-san and Uraraka-san also pulled off such a crazy plan. I must say I'm impressed. While he seemed to be in good spirits at least, the rest of the students slowly trickle in. Class 1B did quite well, mixing in with Wano for the most part, although there was one person from Class B who didn't make it. Minto, I think his name was. Apparently he tried to latch onto Momo with his adhesive balls, but Ochako saw it coming and kicked him away. This became the catalyst for them working together on the last obstacle. 3 of the remaining members in particular caught my interest. First was the general course student who declared war on me a few weeks back. Good on him, he passed the first round. Next was a support course student named Hatsume. We met a few days ago while I visited the support course to power level crafting a bit. She was a bit eccentric, but she was nice enough. Finally, there was another general course student named Muyo Mukenmaru. He just barely made it at the 42nd spot and was currently praying to something for letting him get that far. Oh well, the fact that he got through the first round alone is impressive. I'm sure his friends and family must be proud. Great job, everyone. The top 42 students will move on to the next round. But don't worry if you didn't qualify. We still have plenty of activities to keep you entertained. Now for the next round, it shall be. The screen cycled through various events again before landing on Paintball War. The rules are as follows. The 42 remaining students shall group up into teams of no less than 2 and no greater than 4. From there, our very own Cementos will create an arena for every team to battle in. The players will be given various fake weapons covered in the team's colors. A clean hit equals an elimination. Each elimination gives a point to the one who caused it. However, there is one special rule. I don't like where this is going. The student who came in first during the last event shall fight on his own. In addition, whoever manages to take him down shall have their team win automatically. To keep things fair, Midoriya here will be allowed a 5-minute head start in the arena to prepare. That sure did it. The rest of the competition was looking at me like their next meal. The old me would have probably crumbled under the pressure, but now, I just smirked back, telling them to give me their best. I kept a close eye on the teams that formed, the most dangerous of which was Team Yellow, Team Red, and Team Black. I was Team Green, obviously, or as my competition called me, Green Light. This was going to be a rough game, or at least that's what I thought before I was told to select the weapons I wanted, limited only by what I could carry. My grin threatened to split my face as I gave them my best mad scientist laugh before storing everything I thought I needed into my inventory. Much to Midnight's shock, they knew I could replicate quirks to an extent, but not how far the ability truly went. Hikukuku, pressure-sensitive paint mines, paint grenades, paint snipers, paint pistols, and various bladed weaponry. If they wanted me, they were gonna need to work for it. 5 minutes to plan how to fight against over 40 people. I do these scenarios in my head for fun. I whispered to myself before entering the freshly made maze arena courtesy of Cementos. Welcome to the concrete jungle indeed. Third-person POV. So good news, bad news everyone. Good news, it's 40 against 1. Bad news, it's 40 against Izuku-kun with prep time. Momo announced to the other teams, who all just stared in confusion. Well, all of them except for the leader of Team Yellow. So in other words, we're fucking screwed. That nerd is probably gonna make that place resemble last century's Vietnam. Hell, knowing him, I bet 5 minutes before the first team is eliminated. Bakugou admitted, shocking everyone who even remotely knew him. What? I know when to be realistic. Deku lives for this shit. He knew what the nerd excelled in. This didn't mean he was giving up, of course, but he knew that his team was gonna take heavy casualties before they brought the bastard down. The 5-minute grace period is over. Feel free to enter the arena and spread out at your leisure. You have 5 additional minutes to prepare yourself before the match begins. The 11 full teams entered the arena and immediately froze in place from what they saw. At the entrance sat a calm, smiling Izuku, not at all bothered by having his position known in advance. Why, hello everyone. I've prepared as best as I could, but with 5 minutes I could only do so much. I hope you can all forgive me if my traps are a little mediocre. He stayed sitting there, casually watching the nervous expressions on everybody's faces. Well, you only have 5 minutes to prepare. Or are you banking on the fact that I'm right here, in plain sight, and trapped with all of you? Are you truly willing to risk it all for the small chance that your bullet lands first, while ignoring the 10 other teams right next to you? He was playing with them. It was obvious to anyone willing to pay attention. But it didn't make what he said any less true. Let's go. I know a trap when I see one, Momo whispered to her teammates, who nodded and walked away towards the eastern portion of the maze. Soon after, Team Yellow followed suit, but to the western end. With that, the dam broke and several teams went ahead, trying to prepare a defensive position before the slaughter started. I lied, you know. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. The few that remained were smiling, sweating, or just staring at the still smiling Izuku. As the timer counted down, Izuku stood up from the pillar he was using as a seat and pulled out his smartphone for some reason. 10, 9, 8, 7. Did you know? Izuku asked the captivated group, still typing on his phone. That radio and microwave frequencies can be used to detonate bombs. A widening of the eyes 3. A foot stomping on the ground 2. Green electricity arcing across Izuku's body 1. Boom. Green paint was sprayed everywhere indiscriminately. All at once, 3 teams and 4 more individual players were all eliminated. Team Hagakure, Kodai, and Rin, who were all at ground 0, instantly got covered in an emerald paint. Kajiro Bondo, Sado Rikadu, Shoji Mizo, and Koji Koda were next, each one protecting their respective team from the blast with their larger bodies. Team Todoroki only barely survived through the use of a well-timed ice dome courtesy of the team leader. As for Izuku, he was gone with a flash of green, as if he was never there to begin with. Izuku POV. Sometimes I think I overdo things. Just a little. Oh well, there's no kill like overkill, right? I thought as I hid away in a dark corner of a random room. 2 entrances, exits on either side of me. I underestimated them. Over half of them managed to see through the trap, and even a few that fell for it managed to survive. Todoroki-san's reflexes are nothing to joke about. I muttered while setting up a machine gun trap with a string attached to a door. H-L-H-L-H-L-H-L. I gave my best all-might laugh before speeding away from the room, hoping that someone was dumb enough to fall for it. And if they aren't, well, I had more than that simple Home Alone trap prepared further ahead. 15 points was already halfway decent, but I needed more if I wanted to guarantee my spot in the finals. HRGK, well, that was fast. I walked back to my freshly laid trap to find nothing. Got you. A feminine voice came from behind me as a sharp pain started in my back. wah, and the pain twisted. So this is what it's like to get stabbed in the back. Not liking this one bit, I swing my elbow backward with 20% full cowling, hoping to get my attacker off of me. Crazed giggling followed as my attacker moved back, leaving the knife in my back. I turned to look at my would-be assassin and find Muyo. The hell? Wait, no, damn it, Deku, calm down and be a gamer. Analyze. Toga Himiko, LV34, the vampiric Yandere. Why, how, and when? I asked. She just giggled before looking at her right hand, still bloody from the earlier stab. I thought that after seeing the deepest parts of you this would lose its charm. But your blood is even more beautiful than your bones, Izuku-kun. She licks the blood from her hand, which was my cue to end this one-sided conversation. I didn't need answers that badly. 20% Detroit smash. The punch connected with nothing but air as my assailant somehow dodged with a grin. The wall behind her still collapsed as usual though, alerting everyone else to my position. Sorry to drink and dash, Izuku-kun, but I just couldn't hold myself back. Now I have to go before those mean old heroes get their heads out of their butts. With that, her Muyo disguise melted, showing me her real body, which distracted me for a moment. Apparently that was enough for her to book it and disappear the moment she left my line of sight. Damn it, why did she have to be a cute schoolgirl? My only weakness. I wasn't even bothered by the stab wound, to be honest. That thing was already slowly closing up, but I wouldn't worry about that now. Taking the still bloody knife, I chucked it into my inventory for later. I still have a game to win. Spray and pray came from the hole in the wall I made seconds ago as 3 people came out and shot at me with automatic paintball guns. Now, for the sake of context, these things can fire pellets at a speed of 350 kilometers per hour and had a fire rate of 600 pellets per minute, which made the looks on my enemies' faces even better when I dodged every shot while simultaneously shooting each one of them with a pistol that I pulled out of my inventory. "Oh, come on," cried out the leader of Team Kaibara as his whole team was annihilated in their own ambush. 18 points. Nice try, but next time bring more guns. Those things shoot way too slow to give me any real trouble. Those evasion training sessions really paid off. Thanks, Momo, and your dozens of baseball throwing machines. With my piece said, I ran off before anyone else could arrive. I headed north, in particular. East meant running into Team Black, who I was weary of. They know most of my tricks. And heading west meant that I'd run into Kaken eventually, which would not end well in an enclosed position. We'd get collapsed on in an instant. In the meantime, I looked up at the scoreboard, which was visible all throughout the arena corridors. Although the interior rooms were blocked off, half of the teams were already eliminated. The top scores being myself at 18, Team Black at 5, and Team Yellow and Team Red were tied at 3. I was at the northernmost corridor now, an area that I trapped an extra amount due to its strategic location with 5 different entryways, exits that converged on it, along with the pillar in the middle, just like in the southern entrance where this all started. I took my seat and waited, wondering if anyone would figure out his location from what he did at the start. I didn't have to wait long, however, as 2 more teams converged on my location. Team Todoroki and Team Kendo appeared from my front and right side respectively. I tried to start a dialogue, but Todoroki just sent a wave of ice at me without waiting. Well, that's rather rude. I flicked it apart with a full-powered smash as the weight of the ice activated several pressure traps in the room. A volley of pellet fire came soon after, only to be blocked by another wall of ice and Kendo's large fists. I barely noticed when a disembodied hand approached me from the right, but the small tint of green on my peripheral, along with the fact that Takage pulled this shit during training, tickled my Deku senses. Just in time too, as a pellet whizzed right past my nose, which I took as my cue to skedaddle the hell out of there. That was way too close. I can't keep underestimating them like that. Traps can only do so much against that kind of defense. At least the pellet volley netted me 2 more points. One from Kendo's heroic shielding and another from Kirishima, who wasn't covered in ice quickly enough. I think I'm done for now. Let's see what the girls cooked up for me while I was hunting. That sounded a lot less sexist in my head. Heading east, I immediately noticed the traps that I laid in the area. To my surprise, most of them were disabled without even being used. Impressive. I stopped in my tracks before I reached a closed door. Tripwires. Too obvious. The girls know better than to leave it out in the open like that. A diversion. I look around, checking the door frame, the surrounding walls behind me, just in case I missed anything. The flew. My eyes widened as I noticed a shadow that shouldn't be there appearing over my head, which was followed by a shift in the air and a loud battle cry. I try to jump out of the way, barely avoiding a plastic knife as it passes centimeters away from my left cheek. That was only the beginning though. Ochako-chan now. My eyes widened further as the door I inspected earlier was kicked open and the string under it was cut. A barrage of machine gun fire followed soon after, except these bullets were much faster than usual. Did Ochako-chan did what I think she did, was all I managed to think as the pellets hit my body while it was still in midair. I had no time to flick my finger to dodge. Not with the pellets moving that fast. It was over. Clever girls. I'm proud of all of you, I hope you know that. I said as I stood back up and went to give the girls a hug. To my surprise, Hatsune joined in for some reason. I like group hugs, she said, and we just rolled with it. After saying goodbye and Team Black letting their leader take the victory, Momo and I headed out of the arena to the waiting area where the eliminated players were all sitting in. Said players were all staring at me with wide eyes, probably not expecting me to be eliminated at all. I shrugged my shoulders. What can I say? These girls were really something else. I would say learn from the best, but that was a bit much. Momo blushed next to me as we took our seats. Now it was between them, Team Todoroki and Team Bakugou. I suppose Muso's team is still active, but with it consisting of Aoyama, Kamakiri, and Shota, I didn't expect much. Not that they were weak or anything. Kamakiri's quirk was excellent for close combat, but the fact that it was paintball made it negligible. Shota's quirk basically meant nothing here. And Aoyama was. Aoyama. A few minutes later, said team came out muttering something about why can't I remember anything. Or damn that French kid. Never split the party. And said Frenchman looking as if he was coming out of a trance. He played it off well though, as if he walked out of the area on purpose. Taking a peek at the scores, I was surprised to see a new name at the top half of the leaderboard. Team Shinso. 8 points. I wonder what his quirk is. Whatever it is must be pretty powerful. Either that or he's just great at stealth and close quarters combat. I took a bit more time to relax and socialize with other students before we all heard a huge explosion in the background, which was immediately followed by a giant ice pillar that took up nearly half of the arena. And that's all, folks. With a last resort effort from teams Yellow, Black, and Red, the remaining teams have been eliminated in a three-way suicide move. The final team, along with the final player standing, is Team Purple's leader Shinso Hitoshi. Midnight exclaimed as the final results were shown on the UA Dome's large screen. Well, I'll be damned. He actually made it. I hope I get to face him in the finals. His classmates must be proud of him, I thought, smiling. The scores were about what I expected with the exception of Team Purple. Team Green, 20 points. Team Purple, 8 points. Team Black, 7 points. Team Red, 4 points. Team Yellow, 3 points. A muffled roar of God damnit came from Team Yellow's leader as the results sunk in properly. The rest of the winning team members just congratulated their teammates and shook the hands of their former enemies. Luckily, the class relationships have improved to the point where there was no real bad blood between anyone. That was an excellent showing. Bravo, bravo. Now without delay, let us move on to the third and final round. Midnight waved towards the screen again as it hit the long-awaited final round. One-on-one battle tournament. That's right, folks. This festival's final round shall be a straight-up fighting tournament. The members of the second round's teams will fight each other mano a mano with quirks allowed, of course. But before then, let's have some fun side games. Yo, Eraser, let's go get some lunch. You know, lunch sounded really nice right now. I walked towards the cafeteria before I was stopped by a chilling voice. Midoriya, we need to talk. Sigh, I guess I won't get to eat anytime soon. Whatever, it was probably just another declaration of war. Let's get this over with. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.